More Than Rich podcast. In this episode, we're thrilled today to welcome Chris Troka, an innovative entrepreneur from Milwaukee, whose journey from DJing to digital marketing mastery exemplifies the transformative power of embracing technology. Founder of Focused Biz, Chris has leveraged his extensive background in diverse industries to develop a 14-in-1 business app designed to streamline operations and enhance customer interactions through AI-driven automation. I saw one of your videos, so that's kind of how I'm touching on this. We're going to delve into your unique experiences and insights into AI, helping break barriers, foster growth, all the good stuff. Chris, welcome to the show.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. I love it. Beautiful intro. That was perfect.
Nice. We were talking briefly about Descript and comparing it to Opus Pro. It's funny because I feel like once you dedicate some money to one program like that, you don't even look for the others, right? So that's why I was all like, wait, there's another one, another AI video editing software. Damn.
I know, right? And it seems like every other month a new one comes out that either does something a little bit different, a little bit better. And all these tools are designed to just increase efficiency, give us a better end result. And Opus is great for many use cases. It creates a lot of great short video content using AI, where it actually grabs the call to action, the hook, kind of brings it all together. It adds captions and emojis automatically. So it's really great for creating the short snippet content. For Descript, I use that as kind of your all-in-one general purpose tool for video editing and podcast editing. So basically, it takes a huge transcription of your entire audio. You edit it like you would a Google document. It creates the seamless transition between those words. It can automatically take out your uhs and your ums and your you knows, which I am guilty of 100%. But then you can do like auto captions, and you highlight an area of text to extract a snippet. And that's just my process because I upload that then into Canva to create some content. But Opus, I think, just makes that a lot easier with their AI tools.
You would think it's kind of slow though to be editing in real time with video. So does it keep up with it pretty quick?
It is super efficient. It does a 45-minute transcription in under 2.5 minutes. It identifies that there's different individuals speaking. So you create a speaker label and it will create auto caption or a subtitle rip from it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's really huge because then we use other tools to then upload and publish, social media schedulers, just kind of creating the fun content
that's a big one. That's a super slight nuance that Opus doesn't have, but they're focusing on like automated scheduling right now. You know, like they're more broad, but that's super cool to know. Like it can be a lot more detailed and more personal. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because right now you're just gathering the generalization of the conversation.
Right, absolutely. And it's cool to share these tools with other entrepreneurs that are doing similar things, because then we realize, oh, they just added this feature to this tool. Because I first used Opus maybe 2 months ago, and how quickly technology and AI is evolving, it's tough to keep up with. Okay, who's the front runner in the tech space? And I think at the end of the day, it's all about use case. What do you plan on using it for? Is it efficient within your process? Sometimes it doesn't make sense to have to learn a new tool and create a new process. If you like what you have, just stick with it.
What are your thoughts on digital avatars? Because I currently have a HeyGen account, and then whenever I make the voice, it's not completely convincing, but it allows you to pull in a third party from 11 Labs. And I'm over here like, wait, so you got to pay another subscription on another subscription that's already like $100 a month, something ridiculous, right? And I'm just like, the third party itself is another. I'm just getting swarmed with these costs. But I have such great ideas, dude. Like, I'm not even kidding. I don't have enough time in the day to really put everything I want into the world.
100%. I am relying on other entrepreneurs to keep me up to date with new tech features and what's going on. And that's what's great about the business community, is that we're just so willing to collaborate, share ideas, tips, and tricks. So when we get into a new tech, software or any tool, we're always like, okay, let me give you a brief overview. Here's what it costs. I've compared it to these other tools. Here's the pros and cons. And then here you go. If it helps you in your journey, that's great. If not, stick with your process.
Yeah, a lot of YouTube channels have popped up just in the niche of discovering what happened this week. I've been noticing that too, right? Like, here's the latest news. Like, AI is a news thing in itself. But what revolution has been that big? Like, we're talking like before the printing press, like steam engines kind of level of, Like, do you agree with that sentiment of how fast rapid expansion is going to come in terms of we might not recognize the world pretty soon?
Absolutely. And it's a little bit scary to see how quickly it's evolving, but I kind of compare it to the automation principles of Henry Ford, where he automated this process with building cars, that everything was scalable. It was as automated as you could be using machinery. And as it evolved, we obviously got robots and tools that can, lift up car doors, like those swinging robot arms. You see it lift up a car door and couple tools, and then suddenly the car's attached. But I think we're going to see an increase in the automation and the AI usefulness, and we're also going to see AI being used in ways that we really didn't ask for or want. It seems all these tech companies are jumping onto, we want to just say that we're using AI, and some of it is like really great applications. It's more efficient. It creates a better end result, saves us time. And on the other side, it's just like they're really just collecting our data in order to enhance their own model. And I'm like, this doesn't bring any, benefit to either the end consumer or the business owner. So it'll be interesting to see that evolution as we kind of go on.
And regulation, laws, all that is like really just, I feel like, this weird theatrics to like make it seem like somebody cares about doing something. Meanwhile, these corporations are like competing to be God as quick as possible, in a sense, to have the ultimate power over everything and everyone, right? To be the decision maker. One of the things I made recently was a white paper on flying cars, tinyurl.com/air policy reform, if you want to check that out later. But it basically is all the laws to make flying cars a real thing. Like air traffic laws would have to be completely reformed and changed, and we'd have to like have an air school. And I'm just giving you examples of like how quickly the people think flying cars is not going to happen. And I sent my paper to all the airlines trying to be like, hey, if this is valuable, maybe you might want to donate to my nonprofit or something, which they didn't. They just announced 2030 flying cars is coming. That's all they did. But me, wishful thinking, trying to contribute to the world, right? Like, hey, maybe this research will help. I don't know. Maybe it will. I hope it does. But what are your thoughts on flying cars becoming real? Like sci-fi coming to reality? That was my real question.
I think it's closer than we think, even if it's something that's outside of our, kind of constrained thoughts or, outside the box thinking. These things kind of evolve very quickly, and it's funny because technology and tools are often influenced from previous like sci-fi or tech-related tools within like movies and Hollywood. We see that with some of the tools in Star Trek. I mean, like space lasers, like using those are called directed energy weapons now, and those are in place and they exist.
They're real.
And we have to realize that many of the tools that we receive from the public were actually available to the military a decade or two earlier. And just like you mentioned about these corporations now having full control, a lot of money, expanded market share, they now have control. We have less competition, and we're seeing the side effects of that very quickly. Every tech company not only is introducing AI, it's a new data collection tool for their model. Then they're adding a lot more ads. YouTube is now cracking down on this or that, and there's more ads, and then it's more frequent. We're seeing that with literally every tech company. We need more competition. We need more CEOs, business owners like yourself, who is a critical thinker. You can think objectively. You just have the right mindset on how is this really going to help the people and the individual versus, consolidating more wealth to the top. And in some previous podcasts, I'm like, I say this all the time. I'm like, the world doesn't need another Jeff Bezos. Like, hey, cool. Congrats, man. As Bo Burnham, kind of outlined in his special, like, hey, you did it. Congrats. Like, but that's it. Like, you reach the top. He just needs to get a plaque and maybe let the rest of us kind of come in. But these are just things that kind of happen as laws struggle to keep up with advancements in technology. And by then it's already too late. And it's no surprise that businesses don't really play, or these mega corporations don't really play by the rules when the cost of doing something illegal is just the cost of doing business. It's literally like, okay, it's not legal, but we can get away with it. We can make a lot of money. This happened to banks, to Amazon, to Google. I mean, Google took out their "Don't be evil" tagline, and we kind of see where that's gone. And I don't know what's the future going to hold for us, man. I mean, this is almost a turning point. What do we do?
Threw that one in there, huh? Just sprinkle the Google. Damn. And then we saw what they did with their images. You're right. So quickly. One line of just one line. Yo, but when you talk about Star Trek and stuff, or like Star Wars in general, you're saying that technology is always ahead than what we really know as a general populace. So in a sense, would you agree that maybe they already had that technology when they're making those movies? And beyond that, do you have a favorite sci-fi movie that you're like, man, this got to be real or something, based on what you've like learned or studied?
Yeah, so it's just interesting to see how life imitates art sometimes. And maybe the technology existed, or at least the concept and idea. Maybe they didn't have the tools or the know-how to actually make it practical, but just the concept and idea suddenly became reality down the road. People wonder, out of curiosity, out of advancement, they're like, how could we make that? Could that work? And then they test and play with things. But yeah, we kind of see this evolution within technology, kind of modeling after some things that we see in movies or in media. And absolutely, it could be that it existed already or is very close to production level to being, produced. And I feel like we've had AI as far as language learning models. I feel like we've had that for maybe 15, 20 years already, because the level of dare I say, propaganda and astroturfing
Oh
and
my
robots
gosh.
making comments with, to shift public perception. I hate to be real like that, but let's just be real about it. Like, that exists, it happens, but we need to
It's
find
been
ways
around
to
a long
use
time.
AI and tech, ethically, and make sure that we as a populace still have our own autonomy. We can earn a living. We know our worth. I mean, it kind of delves into so many other topics and areas. But as far as like media and technology, I mean, I always watch the Jetsons, looking at the flying cars, and to see you could go into a little space tube and vacuum yourself out like you do, like if you go to the drive-through at the bank. I mean, that could be a reality. The US could absolutely skip past light rail that China has, and maybe we start our own vacuum tube transportation. Who knows? I mean, I know
It looks
it's
funny, right? It just looks
it
dorky.
does. you know
Yeah.
they'll like, and then corporations will look for a way to monetize that. Maybe they'll do like how you do on the roller coaster, where they catch an image of you. Maybe it's just you with your briefcase as you're kind of floating through, and it's like quick capture of you, and then they're going to sell that at the end. I mean, corporations are looking for any way to like increase subscription prices, models, increase advertising. So they're going to try to create value out of nothing, and it'll be interesting to see how technology evolves and keeps up with that.
Transportation is a big one, right? Like you would think that that's going to be just done, no brainer. Teleportation, let's go. But yeah, your answer for any sci-fi movies though?
For any sci-fi movies, no, just kind of like the Star Trek and Star Wars. You kind of see some of those movies where again, like lasers, those, or lightsabers, those are quickly becoming a reality. To have those sort of features, I think they just released a flame throwing robot dog for
Oh
under
yeah,
10
I remember
grand.
that. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking, I have my new Christmas list item. Like, I have
Oh
no
my
practical
gosh.
use for it, but dang, would I love to like show that off to people.
It's so dumb though. Like I guess if you're like at war, maybe like right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
don't mess with me. This is my guarded weapon for my home. Like damn. Okay, I feel you now. Is that a write off? It's a dog, right?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
security, protection. And now
Yeah.
imagine now they're trying to make the robot dog maybe seem more like a real dog. Maybe it has voice commands and it just like bark, bark, bark. And then it's like warning, warning,
Damn.
flamethrower. You got to be
Yeah,
careful.
but I'm just laughing at the argument of this is a sentient dog, all right? Like,
Right.
like this is a real living thing that is giving me tax advantages. Fighting for it would just be hilarious. But did you have any like defining moment in your early life that steered you towards technology and business?
Yeah, I think just entrepreneurship in general. It started with like doing a little garage sale, with my mom, or maybe cutting the neighbor's lawn. And I realized, oh wow, I can make a little extra cash, make some money. I'm working for myself, and I always love seeing the end result of anything. If I mow a lawn, I'm like, man, that's a nice looking lawn after the fact. You know, like dads do outside when they're just,
taking
you know,
pride in it though.
taking pride
Yeah,
in their
I
work.
feel you. Yeah.
So from that, it kind of started with, I started playing in a band. So I got to learn some of the scheduling and management, how to recognize who are the top performers in the band when it comes to the business side of things. Always seems like a few of the band members kind of pick up the slack.
No, go along. Spend some time on that. Go ahead.
All right.
Go off. What the hell?
Joe's
Never
like,
have
speak
I
your
heard
truth.
such a thing. No, bro, leave this script out.
That's what I was saying. So I like started a band in high school. We got to play some cool shows and be a part of like some Battle of the Bands back when like Snapdragon and many of like the punk rock metal scene was going on. This was like late 2000.
What was that Vans one? The Vans tour? Which one was
the
that?
Vans Warped Tour?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Around that time period?
Yes, that was early 2000s up until, I think they had those going until like maybe 2014 or 2015.
That was coveted shit, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be on that. Like everybody wanted that.
Oh, it was like the holy grail. Like if you got to play Warped Tour, it just opened you up to a new audience. And especially for like the lesser known labels, like the drive-through records and similar, where, you know, this is kind of like, it was kind of like a secretive scene. It was hidden. It wasn't like a major label. So this was almost like us as a people, kind of like we're rebelling, like we're going against the system, but we're still a part of it, but we're still trying to make our way through. But Warped Tour in general was a great experience. Got to see a lot of new bands, get shown more bands and kind of expand your music sense. I lost a shoe once at a Dropkick Murphy mosh pit. I think I was like 16 or 17 at the time. Great experience. I absolutely loved it. But that's just the power of the Warped Tour, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Collateral.
kind of getting that music experience. I tried opening like a local band venue. So we started in a pizza restaurant. They were struggling with getting sales. Their weekend sales were absolutely abysmal. Friday, Saturday, it was like maybe $200 or $300 in the till, and it's a full restaurant. Like you should be doing more business than that. So I decided my band needs a place to play. Other high school bands need a place to play. So we put on live shows. We did like a pizza buffet. So for $10, you got your cover charge plus all you can eat pizza. And this was like the light bulb moment. We were selling like 80 to 100 tickets each evening. And so that's like $1,000. Yeah. So then, you know, after a while, I'm like, okay, we demonstrated a proof of concept. Now I want a little cut. And then disagreements between the owner on, you know, what to do, when we're going to do it. Things just fell apart. He eventually went under, which things happen. But I think that kind of taught me a lot of the business sense, the entrepreneurial sense, finding opportunity and taking advantage of it. So from there, I kind of worked full-time, part-time jobs. In the meantime, I've worked in like healthcare, nonprofit, sales, a little bit of everything. And then I started a little venue in another area, only lasted a few shows. But all those lessons kind of taught me anything in my business where I don't have control over, I really can't guarantee the end result. I can't guarantee success or failure. It always seemed like anytime it was out of my control, what am I going to do about it? So I realized later on, I had an opportunity to DJ for a friend's wedding. She was my boss's boss when I was working at a nonprofit healthcare organization. We were doing the Meals on Wheels program and other volunteer opportunities. And she was like, you got that band equipment from high school, right? Can you bring that to my friend's wedding? We're going to give you an iTunes laptop and just like, can you say some things on the mic? Sure, I'll try it out. Actually turned out to be a lot of fun, not as scary as I originally pictured it. I was like, wow, this is like kind of better than being in a band. Like I don't have to worry about the 4 other band members either like getting wasted on a show night or failing to follow up with, you know, someone asked about a show or something. But from that was the start of my DJ business. I decided, let's build a website. Let's actually grow that, treat it like a business. And eventually today it turned into a team of about 8 or 9 DJs. We have photo booths as well. So this became my full-time income. Within entrepreneurship, I had to learn sales and marketing really quickly, because without that, you're not going to survive. You're not going to have income. So I went back to school and earned a degree in marketing. And that's when I started helping friends, family, and other businesses with their marketing. So websites, CRM, technology. I noticed that anytime I was introduced to a new tool and I could see the benefit in the use case, suddenly this leveled up my business. I was introduced to HubSpot CRM back in 2017. And suddenly I realized, oh, wow, I don't need to like fill out pen and paper with like my manual calendar, and I'm using whiteout on this. And I just realized there's tools out there that can level up your business. Same for Canva. That's when I was introduced to Canva. And then suddenly my content game went to another level. And then as I practiced, it got even better. So it's just like this introduction of new tools, new ideas and opportunities that were kind of presented to us. And as entrepreneurs, we have to see those doors when they open and take advantage of the opportunity. We have to strike while the iron's hot. So that long-winded answer about the band days came into my early childhood into what I'm doing today, and just kind of shows the evolution of you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, how we kind of get these crazy ideas and decide to stick with them.
So what about like your knowledge in music in general? Like, were you aware like early on how hard it was to maybe like, you know, become seriously successful just to make money, like beyond touring and things like that? Like, what was that like to pivot and have these realizations?
Of course, yeah. We always had really big dreams. I think it was our freshman year of high school. We had battles of the band at our high school, and we were so hopped up on arrogance. We were like, we're going to be the first freshman band to ever win the Battle of the Bands. So, anyways, we get to the Battle of the Bands, and so we got last place. There was a band which only consisted of 2 drummers and a bassist. Two drummers battling it out and a bassist. Wow. They won 5th place. We came in dead last. So I think that was a quick realization that seeing other bands and just what it took to put on a show, to practice. For us, it was that mix between hobby and a business. Like, we had a lot of fun doing it. We got to hang out with our friends. We got to express ourselves musically, you know, writing songs and creating this. And that was a great time. But the actual profitability, it wasn't there, and it would take a very long time to get anywhere. The hopes and dreams were great, but until you realize the, you know, practicality of a situation, helps you kind of rethink your strategy. So that's kind of the experience of being in a band, or even as a business owner, entrepreneur, trying to pivot, realizing, okay, this may not be the direction I want to go. I want it to be similar, or you kind of realize difference between your passion and your purpose, but suddenly, you know, kind of find your way, you know, along the journey. And suddenly this teaches you lessons that as long as you're proactive and taking action on things, there's opportunity out there to be successful, you know, despite how difficult it is with inflation and policy and, you know, competition. I mean, but I'm just saying, it's
what is marketing like for a DJ? Because I mean, I'm also a DJ, but I can't see myself overseeing that many people. You know, it's a lot of responsibility. Like, I could pass a gig off, but to manage that much. So what's marketing like?
Yeah, absolutely. So marketing is, you know, kind of this overreaching foundation. You're really looking at your niche, your offer, and your messaging. So when I first started DJing, this was just like, I did one wedding, but then I really focused on anniversaries and birthdays. I was like, I really need to hone my expertise, practice it a bit more so I can feel more comfortable. After about a year or 2 of doing this, I got more comfortable with the idea of doing a wedding, because honestly, that is where the money is at. You're going to make 3 times as much, and sure, there's a little extra work, but not as much. It's definitely worth the 3x, you know, in terms of revenue. So once I niched down, I focused on my industry, who I was going to serve. I became a wedding DJ. That's what we focused on. We could do some birthday parties here and there, but it just made sense to keep our schedule open for those weddings. Eventually, you get to a point where your marketing looks so good. You have a decent website that has nice copy, some nice pictures. You have to remove friction from the buying journey, you know, kind of pre-answer questions, pre-qualify them with a form, follow up with lead nurturing, like an email sequence. Through that, you kind of realize, okay, wow, I'm getting too busy here. I have the option of either pulling back on my marketing budget, or do I hire on a small team? I would pass off 1 or 2 gigs maybe, keep the team small just to start, just to test it. Not everything was sunshine and rainbows. We did have issues that kind of come up. We had guys who I thought would be good who weren't, and then guys who I didn't have a lot of faith in ended up turning into rock stars. But it's something, as a manager, supervisor, business owner, as you kind of grow your team, it's something that you learn along the way and you kind of perfect those processes. So marketing as a whole starts with your niche, offer, your message, and then you want to create content around communicating that to your audience. So me, it was creating review graphics about the couples mentioned this about how much they enjoyed me on their wedding day and the dance floor was packed and they loved the customer service. So those are things you want to highlight on your social media, on your website, within your Google business profile. These are all opportunities for people to find you and connect with you, and then decide, okay, is this person going to solve my problem, or am I looking at other options? So marketing starts with your niche offer messaging. You build a website, a communication tool, platforms, and from there you kind of learn what works and what doesn't. So I've revised my quote template, reply to couples, I don't know, probably 25 times. I think once or twice a year, I'm taking a look. I'm like, okay, maybe this is a little too wordy. I don't need to explain this so early on in their decision-making process. Maybe this is for later. So you kind of learn about how to communicate properly, what people are looking for, removing friction, having the right amount of pre-qualification, and putting all those things together, customer service, and then the follow-through. That kind of makes the business. That is your brand and your personality. And that's what people connect with. And the better you can do your marketing and then customer service, expectation, follow through, if you can nail that, you will create a repeat referral based business where you can then pull back on marketing or then expand like I did. That's what we found was I was getting too booked up and too popular, and I was turning down these dates. And I'm like, man, if I could just get a little cut of that, like, then I started building the team, and then I saw other DJs absolutely wanted to not deal with the business side. They don't want to be dealing with quotes, doing consults, all the business marketing side. They'd rather just get a gig handed to them on a plate and say, you're booked, and they'll take less money because they see the value in the admin business side of things. So kind of like with wholesale and retail. Sure, with retail, I mean, for wholesale, you can go direct and maybe save a little bit of money, but maybe you have to buy an entire pallet of one item. You don't have a place to store that. You don't have a use for that. Do you want to deal with trying to resell that just to save a little bit of money? And that's kind of like the value proposition from where you go from raw material or raw idea into a finished product, into wholesale, into retail, and then eventually the end consumer. There's always value being created somewhere. So that was kind of the long-winded answer of the marketing DJ side and how that all comes together.
But you had to learn like probably lights and connecting a lot of other things too, right? Like you don't just learn DJing software as a wedding entertainer is what I'm getting at. Like there's a lot more that comes with that.
Right, absolutely. For the lighting side, I had a little bit in already because I purchased a lighting system for the band and for the live shows that we were doing. So I was able to learn DMX lighting and what softwares worked well and what controllers.
Like Megalight?
I didn't use Megalight. It was my DMX, and I think I had a Chauvet controller for that. Yeah. And then you start learning
like
about...
that comes in like one long tube kind of thing, right? Pack. Like it's a real convenient condensed setup, if I'm not mistaken.
It was actually like a really small controller, no bigger than like a sheet of computer paper, but it had all the predefined knobs on there, the blackout, preset switches. But
it's dope how convenient it is, you know what I mean?
It is, and it's getting even more convenient now for mobile DJs or anyone out there. There's tools that will make your job easier, that will produce a better end result for your clients. And that's all we're looking to do at the end of the day, is to leverage tools and technology to build a better business. So when we see a more compact lighting rig or a setup that's now an all-in-one tool, or maybe it has a easier to use controller, or the technology in sound activated lights may become more advanced. Now suddenly there's tools that you can pre-script a lighting show that connects to your DJ controller. So if you have like, I have this amazing light show for Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody, and if you get the coordinated lights just right, it will play back that exact sequence within rhythm and time, which is so cool. But these are things that we don't realize until technology advances, the tools become more affordable and more accessible to the general public. But at the end of the day, as long as you're looking to increase value for your client, I think it's a win-win situation when trying to integrate tools, automation, technology, or anything new into your business.
Yeah, uplights are super underrated, right? Like just adding color and then syncing it to some music is, the whole place is dancing in a sense, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. But do you have like any specific childhood memories that got you just into everything? Like, I know we talked about band and stuff, but like, let's go like super young to where like parents are influencing you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was common in our household for my mom to listen to 90s country music every Saturday or Sunday morning when she was cleaning. Of course, the music would wake us up early on a non-school day, and we would have to go and help her a little bit. But from that, I kind of liked some of the 90s country. I grew to like it. Some of the Alan Jackson, the Garth Brooks. I think it was Garth Brooks who originally kind of
Nice.
influenced me. And I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool to learn a song like that on a guitar. And I got like my first guitar at 13. It was like a little, either an acoustic or an electric, or I had an acoustic even younger. It was like 7 or 8 while Garth Brooks was around. And then I got the electric. But that was that original influence. And I was like, that's really cool. I love how that makes me feel. I love hearing it. If I could do something like that, that would make me feel cool and awesome. So I wanted to like build upon that. And then throughout, early teenage years, as I was growing up in the 2000s, this was big into the emo pop punk metal scene. So I kind of shifted away from, the regular radio hits into the more underground scene where I could then develop, who I am and what music I like over time. And I learned that it came with a community of cool people. And I was like, oh, there's people just like me. We have similar style. We had like the baggy jeans and the dark black shirts. And I had a mohawk at one point. Like I went full
Damn.
in. I was a skateboarder too. Like I wasn't good, but like I had a
Yeah, yeah.
skateboard. I could do an
Yo,
ollie
if you
sometimes.
can ride, if you can just stand on that thing, I'm like,
Yeah,
kudos.
you just look super cool. Like once you
Yeah.
flip the back of the board and it stands up, and you're like, I grab it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm cool.
Pretty fucking much. Just, if you can do that, you can do what most people can't. That's all you need. Damn.
Just that coordination is huge.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous. You lived my dream. I'm on rollerblades, all pissed, looking.
Bro, those are so cool, man. Do you remember the original Power Rangers movie from the or maybe it was the second one from the 90s, where there was that intro rollerblading scene? I fell in love with rollerblading.
Isn't
at
this
that
the
time.
one where there was no union yet, and they all got paid like crap? And they were like in super dangerous, like there was like fires on set, I believe. I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's a super crazy story. Like that was around the time before there was like just really any rights for actors, I believe. So
I can only imagine when the corporations and the big players have more control. Gosh, yeah, they will put you in some sticky situations that they themselves wouldn't do. And until we get some protections, or we know our worth and know when to say yes or no, only then do we as people have more power and control over that influence.
For sure. I'm just like, damn, that's literally what money is used for in all the worst ways, right? Like, hey, do this bidding for me. Like, oh God.
Yes.
Yes. Can you describe like the transition from being a DJ to focused biz?
Yeah. So this was after I was working at the nonprofit healthcare agency. I met some incredible people who were almost my mentors. This was Katie Corey and Kelly Andrew. They were the manager and directors of our volunteer department. And I just loved their communication practices, how they managed people and inspired people to do better. And that was really transformative for me. Then my director, she left that company in order to start her own marketing agency, because that's what she did at the previous one. She was the director of development. So this handled, the graphics, the communication, the copy, the fundraising. I was really inspired by that. After a year in business that she was in, I had an opportunity to go work for her as a paid ad specialist. So I was like, I want to expand on my knowledge. So I went to work for her marketing agency. That's when I was introduced to HubSpot and a lot of cool tools like Canva. And once I realized that basically you can learn and do anything you want, you just have to try and practice at it a lot. Your first anything is going to be terrible, honestly. If I went back to my original videos of anything, you will definitely see the advancement and progression as time goes on. You get access to more tools, you learn more techniques, and I'm sure the same could be said for
recording.
DJing.
Yeah, I'm relating to that with recording, right? Like you might do a first take, but over like 10 years, those takes, you'll get it right a lot quicker because you can turn something on an ability. You know where to go to get to it.
Yes. You kind of have more defined processes, but I think also the tools become more accessible too. Uh, I'm imagining back 15 years ago when our band tried to do our own self-recording because we had terrible experiences paying someone to record for us.
Yeah.
We either like recorded, but then they didn't finalize the tracks and master it, and they wouldn't give us the like. It's bogus. But we're like, we're gonna do it ourselves. But we were going with like regular vocal microphones, trying to mic up a drum set or a guitar amp, or like testing, trying. We were terrible.
Yeah,
But now the tools today, if we were in high school with the tools that are available today, we could have a much more polished sounding band and sound. And I think that's just a testament not only to, learning something, what you do and what your process is, but also the access to the tools. That really levels us up.
And also things have been so refined now that people have learned to appreciate potential, right? Like they can hear when something is like, I don't know how to even explain that. It's like we've overdone it, actually. We've overdone the polishing on music. That the rawness is like appreciated.
Absolutely. And I think we see that transition and evolution happening more frequently now, specifically with like maybe video content or marketing content. People are so sick of ads. They're thrown in their face. You go to a gas station and it's blaring an ad at you, and you get into an Uber now, and now there's a tablet behind the headrest, and now you have to watch an ad while you're paying X amount of dollars, for this service. And I think it's just our natural want to connect with more real people who share our vision or our purpose. So I feel people are going like TikTok. It allowed everyone to become their own little video creator, a little content creator. Sure, some of it is kind of like, meh, I don't like that stuff, or it's not for me. But just opening up that tool and that access for people to try it, to test it, and then get better at it, I feel like there's almost a switch in direction. People don't want well-polished ads or videos anymore. They'd rather see you with your camera phone just kind of speaking to people, and less production and less editing to it.
Yeah, and not even just that. There's another statistic I saw that even on TikTok, people don't like when you're talking to them like this, like directly at them. Like they'd rather just be like a fly on the wall. And it shows in the retention time as well. Like when I've like looked at it, I'm like, people just want to be in the room, but not like be spoken to directly. It's an interesting observation. Yeah, because it's like human behavior, right? Like how many people, and I actually relate this more to girls, right? Like a girl could be obsessed or watching from afar, and as soon as you give that person attention, they're like, they're like, why are you looking at me for? There's all these, you know what I mean? And then they run away, fear, scared, insecure, like all these weird things. But that's how I relate it to, like, people just want to be flies on the wall and not really so much have to engage, maybe just to understand, learn, build new judgments, perceptions on the person, whatever.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And it kind of makes sense. We really, are shying away from the direct attention. We don't want the lights, like we want to be like seen and appreciated, but like don't look at me too long. I feel like it's similar to Ryan Howard from The Office. He's like, lead me when I feel like being led. Just don't tell me what to do. And it's like this weird kind of, this conflicting argument where it's like,
yeah, you gotta like guide someone to the thought, right? Like let them have the thought without telling them this is what you need to do. Kind of,
yes,
encourage it, but that's a weird one. And then my other example is my nephew a couple days ago caught a baseball, like it was a pop fly, and he's at shortstop, and I missed it, but my mom was telling me that his face got super red. He starts looking around, and I'm like, dude, imagine you're super proud, but then you're like, all this attention is like, I didn't anticipate this. But everyone's has to feel that at some point, right? It's not like it's gonna happen every time, but that's an interesting observation. Like,
no, absolutely.
Wow, center of attention. Whoa.
Right. And I think we as people, and also within early education and throughout our learning, I think we need to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. Do you remember when you were, grade school, middle school, the teacher would say, okay, we're going to be reading from a book. Each person, we're going to go in order based on a paragraph.
Why I learned to read, by the way. I learned to read because of this. I was like, I'm going to speed read this, and I would just be super bored and get through it super fast. Also helped me with lyrics, by the way, because I can write really quickly too. But
Yes.
the main one was improv, because I was in theater and they would just be like, okay, make people laugh, come up here and do, and I literally just out my ass, just super satire. But yeah, that's a hard one. Satire is a really hard one. Yeah.
It is, absolutely. But for us to be, seen by multiple people, we're almost, like we're on stage, we're on a pedestal, and we feel like we have to like, oh, okay, now it's time to go. And, anxiety increases a bit. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we surprise ourselves by doing really great. Sometimes we fall and crack a bit under that pressure. But I think the more often that we do something, we get more comfortable with it. So that's why I'm a big advocate for, early childhood education, where we have those practices in place that get people more comfortable with speaking, with public speaking, with communication, because this is how the world works. If we can't communicate with each other, we can't really get stuff done.
I think it's an eye contact thing too, because even in performances when I first started and stuff, I would like zone out and have these outer body experiences on stage, and I'm like, this isn't the time. Like, like you're supposed to remember these lyrics right now, and I'm just over here like 3D looking at myself and everyone in the room. I'm like, dude, not good. Like you're a performer. That's a horrible situation to be in. Like just having these existential realizations of, what am I doing right now? How is this even happening?
Yes, absolutely. But I think with that action, with that uncomfortableness, you get more comfortable, and that creates confidence. And that confidence is going to inspire more action and allow you to dream bigger and do more than you would originally give yourself credit for. And I think that, we're kind of seeing the negative side effects, both of like the social media, the screen time, the division, and, consumption of media. It seems like, we're like more connected, but further apart than we ever were. We struggle to communicate ideas with each other, and
Damn.
especially anything
Or
politics
even
are like taboo.
just to see points of view, dude. Like you don't even have
Yes.
to agree with the person, but just to be like, oh, I can put myself in your shoes and see why you would think that. I don't, though. We can't even do that. We just like argue and we're like, this is why you're dumb. It's why you think like that. Shouldn't have voted for them. Something that has nothing to do with it, by the way. It'll usually like be some personal, like something you have no control over. People love to blame.
Absolutely. And I think it's our the problem we have is that we feel like it's a personal attack, like they're attacking us personally rather than the idea or the concept. And for most of us, it seems like we're just repeating talking points from the legacy media. We're just like,
Hell yeah.
this is what I think, and these are my justifications for it. But they're not having an original thought. They couldn't be bothered to have any critical thinking skills. Like
NPCs.
Yeah, right. Like they're literally just robots, and I'm like, oh my god, everyone's a zombie now. Like,
what are you repeating? Who told you this?
Yeah,
Who told you this?
So, and that's something that's so fascinating to me, having this marketing background with communication and connecting with people, that I see that division happening more and more. And I'm trying to find ways that I can bring communication value to others, to help people think a bit differently. When I'm speaking with people, they're always saying like, I can't tell if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Like I see you say things on either side, and I'm like, well, that's just me trying to like, yeah,
Good.
like, and I'll like, and
you're
I'll
glad
like,
I'm not. You're mad I'm not biased. You know what I mean? Like,
but they'll be so quick if I say something that may be left or right leaning based on their preconceived notions. They will then automatically assume, so you probably think this about that. Oh, and you think it's okay to, I'm like, no, we didn't even discuss that topic, but you are so quick to be defensive that you feel like it's a personal attack. And now you're putting me into this box of left or right. And I'm like, could we have some critical thinking here? Think objectively. And just like you were saying, I'm just sharing my thoughts and opinion, not to change your mind. It's more to just share what I think and maybe give you a new perspective. That's all it is. At the end of the day, I always tell people, hey, if we're going to talk politics here, real quick, I'm going to let you know everything I share is just an opinion. I'm trying to gain perspective from you to see how you see it as well. And I like to be friends after this. Like, let's not let this tear us apart, because that is exactly the That's the divide and conquer mindset. This is
Now
let's get
I'm gonna
everyone.
go make a fake profile, and with 0 followers, and I'm gonna comment that you don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Wow, that's a great point, Chris. I didn't see it that way, and that's another issue that that's forum sliding or astroturfing, where fake or multiple accounts will try to shape public opinion, and this can be something all the way from up to
Super
politics.
common, super fucking
Yeah,
common, by the way. Huge
yeah,
issue.
absolutely. Or if maybe you have like a new track you just produced and you're trying to put this music out, maybe you want to grab some of your profiles to say like, hey man, that sounds really great, I love the breakdown at 118, or
Yeah,
things like that, where it's like, yeah, oh, it's
it's
right, like.
hilarious. It's genius, honestly, but hilarious. So I've
Mhm.
definitely noticed things like that when I'm watching these like huge accounts. I'm like, there's no way a fan cares about this detail about you or something, but that's probably
Yes,
marketing, you know?
no, absolutely, yeah, it definitely exists. It's
It's
freaking crazy.
interesting. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Are you like a fan of Gary Vee?
Gary Vee, oh crap, that sounds very familiar. He's big in the business space, right? Probably does YouTube videos.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't.
That's
uh
cool. No, that's fine. If he's
Tell me
not
more
on
about him.
top of your turned his dad's wine company from like a few million to like over 60 within, I don't know, like a decade or something, but he was
Hey,
basically on the first 4 AdWords, Google AdWords and stuff. He was one of the very first ones like running ads and things like that. Like Google
no kidding.
had the word wine at like 5 cents, that kind of thing.
Wow,
Yeah,
I
early
think
early
Google
days.
I think Google launched AdWords, I think in early 2000s, like 2001, 2003 or so. So that's super interesting that he was like almost the first one to use it, kind of
Yeah.
like a pioneer to like, hey, I'm going to test this out and see if it works.
Yeah, and he also called like Snapchat, Uber, Facebook. So he was known for the investments. But the reason I bring him up is because he has an underrated book called The Thank You Economy, and
Hmm.
that one is basically about like doing good for others and providing value. And it's an interesting concept that it's his least sold and like least well known book, but it's like super human nature centric, you know, like the most core principles of what we should care about in business. And nobody reads that book. I just thought it was interesting.
Absolutely, and I think there's a lot of truth, and I'm sure I would agree with many of the principles within that book, because for us, the more we can connect, the more we can be like as a business, like be more human. The most human company is going to win. People don't want these boilerplate, emoji. Hey, travelers, check out this new offer we have with this. They would rather like hear a story about someone sharing that experience, or maybe a give back program where people feel appreciated. And this kind of like just goes into, you know what do we as humans, as people, value the most? What do we appreciate, and what do we expect these companies and mega corporations to follow, to align with our strategies? I know they say vote with your dollars. Sometimes that's harder in practice than it is in an idea. Sometimes we don't have a choice. Sometimes the price outcompetes. Sometimes there just is no
Sometimes
competitor.
sometimes you're supporting the same person no matter what you buy, for sure, and that's more and more and more common. Yeah.
Absolutely. There are these mega corporations that are buying out all of these sub niches, sub brands. So
Yep.
when you see, a big aisle at the supermarket, you see 200 different
Yeah.
brands of cheeses or
It's really
cereals.
4 companies
It's
though,
really
right?
it's for companies
Yeah.
that have bought out and purchased, and they repeat the same lie every single time. It's, this is going to improve operational efficiency and expand our product line, and all this stuff. That is so far from the truth. What actually
Competition
happens,
destroyed.
yes, competition is destroyed. The
Monopoly.
monopoly, and then they will remove features or benefits. They will, do shrinkflation, where you get less product.
Strip down what made it good to begin with. That's my
Exactly.
concern with like Nestle buying Essentia, for example. I'm like, is it the same water? You just trust Nestle? What?
Exactly. Exactly. And there's so many examples of these companies that, whichever topic that you're hoping to support or make sure you stay away from, whether it's like either like slave labor or fair wages, or sustainability, eco-friendliness, any topic that you want to choose to support, there are going to be different companies and organizations that are going to be better fit for you as a customer to help support, or certain companies you're going to want to avoid? So Nestle, for example, what is their biggest gripe from most people about Nestle? What don't people like about Nestle?
Probably the fact that they steal a ton of water, right?
Yeah,
They just
I mean, yeah.
steal water. And I say a ton. I'm like, all of it. They want it all. They want it all, dude.
Literally. And you can kind of see that framework being introduced within our financial system and security system, because now not only are they privatizing water, not only are they pumping it from a public source saying it's spring water and charging with a huge upsell, now they're securitizing private water. They want to create futures contracts, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with financial system, but this is the way that they control and inflate and deflate the price within. There's literally just algorithms that are like buy, sell. And now
someone is sitting around like, we can triple it.
Yes. Same for like the housing market. There was a tool that was introduced, a software that could calculate based on the median income and disposable income, what would people be willing to pay for a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom in this area or that. That is a part of the reason why we're seeing such inflated prices in renting and for just affordable housing. And then you multiply that by, now there's these corporations and mega corporations who are purchasing homes as an asset. They take over a place. I actually just 2 years ago moved away from a place that used to be $750 a month for a 1-bedroom. Another company came in to take over. Rent went up to $1,100. They removed features. They started to charge for parking, for a garage, for like trash service. They started to charge more fees, and they determined that, okay, this is our new business model. We're going to raise these prices and try to justify it through, new luxury improvements, which they weren't. They, some new items and a fresh coat of paint, and suddenly it's a luxury area. But we see that it's the software and algorithms, the securitization and financial policies. It's the lack of regulation, or regulation that's in the wrong place. We have lobbyists paid for by these corporations creating surveys and tests based to help confirm their own bias, and they present that as truth and fact. Mega corporations buying up these houses, and then this weird intersect between the boomer generation and then the younger generation. Now finally, like 4 years ago, I would have been able to afford a house close to, and then suddenly they're like, what if we kind of move that up here? And suddenly it's out of reach, and now I have to work even harder. People are saying the original 100,000 that people would be happy to live comfortably on suddenly is out of reach, or it's much more difficult. Our money doesn't go as far. These are all the messed up things in our world that.
And these are just the last couple of years too. Like, it's gotten really bad.
Yeah. It's getting much, much worse. I think they're, really squeezing every dollar they can out of us. We see it with subscription increases. They take away features. I really think corporations listen to these forums and comments to decide what they're going to remove. They're like, oh, we see a lot of people like this, we're going to remove it. And I'm seeing that all the time.
Not sure who that was. My bad. I'm going to cut that and make a note.
Oh, you're good.
Actually, since I'm on that, one sec.
Do your thing.
Had some family. I need to unlock the door. But one sec.
Oh, nice.
Just send this message.
Oh yeah, do your thing. I know we're having such a good chat. We're going a little over time. I'm available as long as you're down.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's a good combo, man. I love it.
Okay. Last thing you said was, what were we saying?
I think we were just talking about the lack of competition.
Okay.
We went from like housing market into the software and tools, megacorps. Yeah.
So now we're back. Here's a weird little detail. tinyurl.com/wage housing crisis. I wrote this paper, and it has everything to do with tying all of this together, from like the whole world aspect, how it all ties in, everything's related. like from the wages to the housing. And one of the reasons I wrote this is because my apartment complex neglected me for so long. I had to take them to court, small claims, right? But the judge was telling me that this is basically what she said, that if you're in a situation that requires like drastic, dire need to leave, because you left the premises, you can't pursue them. And I was like, wait, so if the place is on fire, I have to stay or else I can't. Wait, hold on, what? So I'm in an appeal right now because even the judge doesn't understand the law. You know, she's like, from my understanding of, and I'm like, do you understand the implications for everybody else if they want to like, so I'm over here like contacting everyone and anyone who will listen and who cares, but the media doesn't care because who owns the media? Oh, great. So there's going to be more of this where tenants are going to lose their rights slowly over time. There's going to be a more and more decrepit decay of the places that we live in, and they're not going to have any standards to uphold. So I'm just mind blown because I already have experienced it myself, and I'm not even trying to go sue them for millions, right? I'm just like, yo, fix my problem, dog. Nah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
they called me
literally we're
crazy.
just
They said I couldn't prove it, even though I have all the videos and evidence. They kept calling me crazy.
that is so crazy and so messed up that you have to go through that. And that's a part of the system. They want to make it so difficult and, you know, just make it seem like you're going to be in the losing side
Yep.
of things. So why even bother? And even if you do go to court, well, they're going to make it very difficult for you to, you know, kind of move beyond that and win a case.
It's like, they're like, you realize we're $1 trillion company, right? That's basically what they did to me. You realize we have a lot of money.
And that's what they do. They use these scare tactics and the lack of competition, the policies and regulations that are, you know, bought and paid for. The U.S. government and many other governments are just 5 corporations in a trench coat. It really is. They're making the laws for themselves that benefit them, which honestly, like, I enjoy the principles of a free market and capitalism, the ideas of it. But we've gotten to a point that the consolidation of wealth to the top, the laws and regulations make it more difficult for the everyday solopreneur, the everyday working person. You know, back then, people fought and died for a 40-hour work week. The U.S. government and private corporations hired security detail. When I call them, these were the Pinkertons. They tried their best to make laws to fight against the average worker. When the workers finally realized how much power and control that they could have by standing up against them, it wasn't an easy fight. But this is the struggle that we're having today. And I almost feel like
did you see
we're coming
yesterday?
to a point. No,
like
not yesterday
with the college campuses and stuff because of Palestine. It's like, dude, it's not going well. Just arresting them.
Absolutely. And this is similar, very similar to 2020 all over again. It's not to say it's just because it's an election year, but it seems to happen around the same time, but that's not to discredit the validity of their arguments and what they're standing for. And you see how quickly the news media is jumping into crafting the narrative, the story around it. Violent protests. Okay, hold on. Show me the violence. They will have the headline, violent protests and riots and whatever taken down by cops. And I look at the video.
Every old person's going to read the headline and be like, well, they shouldn't have been.
Absolutely. We should just, you know, shoot them and run over them if they're going to do X, Y, or Z. And, you know, it's, I don't know, like, I know the media corporation and the social media, we see this perception, or we perceive the situations as being very divided left, right. But when I speak to people and individuals in person, they are more objective and, you know, they have the ability to think critically. And it almost makes me wonder, does this even exist in real life? Or, you know, I feel like those are the outliers, the ones who are really left or really right. I feel like the more people I talk to, they're just kind of fed up with everything. And they see the politicians are only working together when it advances their corporate interest. If it's literally anything to help the people, well, we're going to have to wait on this bill for 8 months. But if we can get the war machine going, well, we'll pass that bill today and we'll have missiles on the boat tomorrow. And it's like, wait, y'all can get stuff done? Really? But like, that's
the type of shit where you're like, oh, they're all friends. This is all just like, but after theater. This ends, it's all theater, all politics.
Like, okay, I'm gonna go against you on this topic, but for this one, I need you to be like this. And they're literally, I feel like they're actually counting their own votes to know, like, okay, this is going to barely pass or barely lose. So we make sure that, I maintain a good image here, or I'll use this little snippet to say I didn't agree with this bill. Again, it's just like there's so many problems with money influencing politics, the money that's been consolidated to the top.
Yeah.
We don't have this free market. We don't have true capitalism that the ideas and principles started with. We're now in the late stages where it's much more difficult. But I think we have a chance of fighting back or winning. I don't want to put a target on my back here, but I mean, I
Do you
feel like the more
remember?
people I talk to, they're fed up.
Do you remember when Bernie was running on that repeal Glass-Steagall? That whole idea of get money out of politics.
I'm familiar with both principles, but I don't remember following Bernie on that particular stance. But I'm familiar with both, so I can definitely follow along.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious how you felt about that, because is that really the solution to get money out of politics? Is that how you fix everything?
I don't know what he was proposing with the the Glass-Steagall Act. Wasn't that the Banking Act, or am I thinking of a different one? Was that the Dodd-Frank Act?
I think that's a different one.
Okay, my apologies. But so what was his idea for getting money out of politics?
I think it was just to repeal it, but I wasn't sure if that was the best idea to repeal. Like,
Okay,
wouldn't that just set off a chain reaction?
that's exactly that. You bring up a great point. So oftentimes politicians will speak some truth about a problem or an issue, and then the suggestion to correct it doesn't really even correct it, and it's almost like it's smoke and mirrors. That Bernie could be a great example. Maybe it could help. Maybe it hurts more than it helps. I like to see progress in a positive direction. But that happens all the time, where they will state the problem, what issue we're having, and they will come up with, like, here's our solution for it. It doesn't really fix any real issues.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to the underlying cause. And I again, I think it's just politics and smoke and mirrors that they kind of create, for us to feel like, oh, they did something about it, or it's a win for us. We can stop fighting for it.
Did you have any specific politician that woke you up to everything? Because I feel like mine would be like Ron Paul, where I'm like a teenager and I'm like, yo, like this guy is saying some crazy shit. Like, like, was there anyone like that where you were like, this is nuts?
Yeah. I can't remember if it was a specific politician. I feel like maybe it probably would have been like a Ron Paul maybe started it, but I think it started with YouTube, or speaking with people, where they're like, did you see this? Does this make sense to you? Does something seem out of place? And then I'm like, I guess when I look at that, and then that happened more and more often. And it's not to say that I will immediately believe any alternative media or independent journalist or even a conspiracy. I'll at least entertain the idea. Like, I want to be open enough to, like, give me the information if it makes sense, and if it has, factual basis. I want to consider that as a possibility, or at least see where maybe we're right or wrong in a certain area. So it was, a few of the early YouTube videos that are outlining major events in history. One example of the propaganda, issue, I think it was me realizing, so in high school, middle school, all the great inventors, American, Ben Franklin,
Mhm.
on and on and on. I look at some alternative history where they say, oh, so how, this person invented this. Well, actually, someone in Europe invented that about a year earlier.
Yeah.
Why are we still teaching that an American
Yeah.
created it if there's documented proof that historically that's not true? That is the ultimate level of propagandism. Like, hey, root for the USA. We got the best inventors. Like, that is literally North Korea style propaganda. Like, it's absolutely crazy. So I think it
Damn.
was the beginning of that into questioning some of the things that are going on, or things that don't seem right. And it's just like, things aren't adding up. They're not making sense. And I don't know. I always wanted to go against the grain.
So, are you a spiritual person, and do you believe the world is more mystical than we're aware of?
I think, yeah. So I'm not. Yeah, it's hard to describe. So I wouldn't say I'm fully religious or spiritual in a sense. I grew up going to Sunday school and practicing Lutheran of Christianity. Did the whole what is that? Communion. I was about to call it communism, and I'm like, that's not it.
Yeah.
So we did communion and the whole charade. And once I was 18 and no longer had to go to church, I didn't want to anymore.
Same.
Because I had more questions than they had answers, and it always seemed like I was getting they were misdirecting me a bit, or couldn't be upfront, or it just didn't sit right with me. And I was like, what are the chances that the God that I'm following right now is the right one, because I just happen to grow up in a certain family in a certain area at a certain time, and that makes my religion right? I'm like, that's crazy. But what's interesting is just you mentioned spirituality and how mystical the world is. I think there's so much that we don't know about the universe yet that interconnects into each other that would absolutely blow our minds and be like, oh my God, it was literally right there all along. Everything from like sound waves are waves.
Mm-hmm.
They are physical. They can produce light. Light can produce sound. I'm like, what are these things coming together? So I feel like the world in itself, we have so much to explore.
Which
and
means
learn.
that light's coming out of your mouth whenever you speak.
Yes. And what other dimension or area? And we know that, like, okay, certain eyes have certain cones and certain ability to see certain rays, certain spectrums of the light. Same for sound. Our ears can only hear certain spectrums of the
light
sound of the light. And I'm like, and then so you can take a speaker and use it as a microphone. You can just reverse the polarity, and you can take a speaker and turn it into a microphone. That's all a microphone is a little mini speaker. It's so interesting how vinyl was created, where it's literally the vibrations are put into a freaking piece of plastic.
Yeah, I don't even think I still understand that. It's still mind-blowing, right?
That blows my mind. And then to see that I have like this huge tower computer that is capable of so much processing power. I don't know how it works. Like there's bits of glass, sand, and metal onto a chip connected with electrons, and it's passing information via ones and zeros at the speed of light. And I'm like,
we got gold and crystals in these things too, right?
Yeah, that sounds mystical. You're like, oh wow, what did you get from the power crystal store today?
You're saying the packaging sucks, right? We just package the shit to like look not that cool. It really needs to be like, I don't know, translucent. I don't know.
Right. And just think on like such a molecular level, the organisms that exist and how advanced a single organism can be. I was just following Reddit, and I saw a T cell attack a cancer cell. And when it attacks, it delivers a basically like a cocktail of chemicals, and the cancer cell lights up. Each time that it gets hit and injected by a T cell, the T cells are in our immune system to help fight the bad cells. So we see it attack the cancer cell. It lights up each time, which is so interesting. And then suddenly the cancer cell just goes from like this
disappears
triangular to like a little ball, and it like the T cell floats away. It's almost as if the T cell recognized the cancer cell was dead or incapable of living anymore, so it no longer viewed it as a threat. Now, what they're doing with science and technology now, they're able to take these T cells out of our blood, out of our immune system. They add I can't remember what the initialism stands for, but it's CAR. Basically, they can inject the T cell with something else that makes the T cell identify cancer cells a lot easier. And it gives them kind of like it's almost like taking a protein shake or something. You give the T cell a little bit of training.
Turn it AI.
Yeah. Like teach it some new code, and suddenly it can better attack T cells. So they're using this in cancer research right now. They take your T cells out, they put you through 3 days of light chemotherapy, and then they reintroduce these new T cells into your body that are now reprogrammed to attack the cancer cells, and it's showing to be more effective. As with anything, more research, more case studies.
With late stage, I'm guessing it's probably helpful, I would hope, right?
Right. Well, the idea I would hope is that earlier stages of detection can help prevent as well. And now, obviously, with later stage, it's to a point where obviously the body is shutting down; it can no longer fight. So that seems more promising. I would
imagine.
A chance,
right? Just a chance.
There's a chance.
Better than no chance. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And when it comes down to like our health and the media, if you look at the things that we're most likely to die from, heart disease, number one. And I think cancer is number two. And then you have
if anyone's listening to this, go get into a sauna. If that is your fear and you feel it, the sauna will drastically help you, and it's worth the membership. Just letting y'all know.
So helpful. And it's so important for us to take care of our bodies like that. But if
Magnesium,
you just look at the way
spirulina, turmeric, all things that are good for your health. So heart health specifically.
And it's crazy because these things exist naturally within our world, and sure, some processing is required to get it into the form that we need, or our bodies to best receive it. But why is that considered holistic medicine, and why is it not tested and practiced more? But we will create these crazy
patent a plant.
We can't patent it. We can't make money from it, and that's the craziest thing, that we have to shut off this external source of media, because it's literally lying to us now and misdirecting us. But if you look at media where, the things we should be scared of, heart disease and cancer, top two, but what they talk about is maybe it's like they'll talk about, you should be scared of this other political party. You should be scared of your neighbor who is
the
a
wrong
different color
food pyramid.
than you.
The wrong food pyramid.
The food pyramid. Oh yeah, have a loaf of bread each day. Like, are you kidding me? That is
insane.
Literally not good for anyone. It's like, man, if they really cared about our health, if there was money to be made.
And that chart, that chart was made whenever food quality was good. You know what I mean?
Yes. That was actually more whole and had more nutrients originally. But nowadays, you look at any ingredient or product that's in the U.S. Marketplace, in the stores, it will contain so many different ingredients and preservatives that it's no longer a positive food for us. And if you look at the laws and regulations between the U.S. and Europe, there are many chemicals, pesticides, and ingredients that are not allowed in Europe, but they still put on the U.S. market because we're either lagging behind in the times, and things like that, like Red 40. Have you heard the downsides to that?
No, but I know all the dyes are bad. Wait, is that the one where it's aggression and actual anger, things like that?
So it's causing anger and irritability within toddlers.
Hot Cheetos, let's go.
Right. Right. Someone's snacking on them right now. They're like, oh no. It's like, okay, yes, live your life, have some fun. It's so difficult to try to live absolutely perfectly, or to try to take care of it so well. But it's something to be mindful of, where when you do have the option of choice. So Red 40 is commonly found in things like Pop-Tarts or anything with a red dye. It's causing hyperactivity and aggression in younger children. ADHD, there's a big rise. There's a big rise in autism. They can't pay attention. The screen time is increasing. If this hyperactivity is being caused by Red 40, it's banned in Europe. They don't have as many issues, or it's different. Something to look into. I'm not saying I for sure know this thing. It's let's look into it more. I'm curious. But we have a choice now between Aldi regular Pop-Tarts without a Red 40, or if you choose the brand name Pop-Tarts, it has Red 40 that exists.
I actually did not have to. Let me just hold on. I'm gonna. Yeah. Well, I made note on here. Yeah, my bad, dude. My nephews are here. I just never have had that happen where they walked in and they're tiny. So.
Oh, dude, you're all good. You're all good.
They both walked in and I'm like, hey.
Hey, come on the show. Why not?
They're like, are you live? I'm like, yeah. And we're back. So we're talking about food quality right now. Let's come back to AI a little bit. Any advice for businesses that are hesitant about integrating AI in their operations? Because I know a lot of people are falling behind out of sheer fear.
Yeah, I think it's a sheer fear, but also just how difficult it is to keep up. Some of the new tools that are advancing and the new features that are being added in AI, I don't think businesses can avoid it anymore. We're seeing AI integrated into literally everything. I don't know if that's just to boost their stock prices temporarily, or if they're actually using actual AI, or if it's just an advanced, software or sorting algorithm. But they're trying to introduce this AI, and people have the right to be fearful of the data collection that they're trying to use within these models, because it's much different. Instagram just went from their typical search bar feature into ask. It replaced the search bar and said, Meta AI anything.
And it
I'm like, I
takes you
don't
to
want
like
to.
the newest Instagram videos that are related to what you're asking. It's cool, but I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't ask for that.
No, and it's being fed into the algorithm again. So I don't think businesses can avoid it. However, if they can get ahead of the game and realize the advantages and use cases of I think they would be more willing and open to accepting it.
GPT just came out with it can memorize across all chats now. How do you feel about that? I mean, it's closer to our own personal assistant in that aspect.
It is absolutely. So there have been chatbots and LLMs like ChatGPT where it could understand information, store it, and then reference to then create an answer. So right now, I do have a knowledge base bot on 2 of my websites. Where if you go to my DJ website, a couple ask a question like, "Okay, what's included in a DJ service?" or "Are you available for the date?" It will, use human-like conversation to answer their question. If it doesn't know, there's options where you can either roll over that message to a human to take over or save the conversation and get it sent in an email. I just
That's so
added a
dope.
new.
It takes care of
Yeah,
so
it's
much like pre-convo you don't need to have, Like they already know a
absolutely
lot of information before they get to you.
right. In terms of business and marketing, it's so important to have speed to lead. You need to follow up with a lead, ideally within the first 5 minutes, if you can. That has shown to increase your conversion rates because when people are searching for a solution to their problem, they've already considered this might be a good fit for me. I want to make sure I can get my questions answered. If you have a chatbot with AI, that's powered by AI, that will help replace a human or at least assign the human to then more high value tasks. And that's kind of that ethical line that we're trying to draw in the sand, is that we don't want to remove humans from it.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
very essential in many areas, but instead reassign them to higher value tasks and let
Because
AI kind of take over some of it.
I'm trying to see where it helps though, because it speeds up the line of people who might need help. It gives you a more personalized experience. It helps you get directly to the problem instead of having to wait on hold. Like there's a lot of advantages, but yeah, I can see how people get around it. And we've seen mishaps with like the airlines one, I think you're aware of, right? Yeah, things like
The
that are
airlines
just,
one.
I mean, these are part of the experience though that we have to go through in order to even justify why we need to do things to prevent them later, I'd imagine. So yeah, AI is
Absolutely.
going to need a fail safe in some way. That's interesting, right?
It will, and there are some, ethical, moral dilemmas that are coming up right now um, when it comes to the use of AI. Obviously, with any tool that has ever existed and will come into existence, there will always be an ability for someone to use it for good and for evil. That will never go away. Now, who has the control and the final say and the power and control over that
Whew.
tool? That's what's
Are you
interesting with AI right now, is that they started open source where we could kind of get a jump start on it. And many of us today are anyone using AI today in 2024, we're early adopters, we're the beta testers. We're seeing how it works and how it doesn't work and how we can apply it to use cases to help refine it and make it better. Most of us are going to use it ethically, but there's those who are going to be using it for nefarious means, astroturfing, forum sliding.
What about, are you fearful of like the biology aspect of it? Because I mean, look at ancient civilizations where supposedly we're talking about like Atlantis and stuff, you know, when we're
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
one sec. Clipping it again. Hold on.
All right, and we're back.
Cool.
You were talking about the biology of AI.
Yeah. Just the aspect of if we're making that so accessible to the average human who might, I mean, we talked about not everybody having good intentions, but I think the craziest thing I saw was like somebody tried to combine a scorpion with a spider body and they were letting it out into the wild. And then I was like, hold on. It's like, hold on. What does this really mean? Because that's just the smallest example of potential right there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely using technology, and whether it's AI based or some sort of advancement, we are, I wouldn't say we're playing God, but we are messing with the universe, with the biology of things that exist already. This could be anything from genetically modified food. Some can be good or bad, like the taking seeds out of the watermelon. I mean, I kind of like that for a reproductive sense. We can't grow our own watermelons, unfortunately, because of that. Um, So it's up to us to decide if it's good or bad. Some of the bad GMOs are more like they're sucking up the Roundup and the chemicals and not releasing them. And now that's getting into our blood. So there's pros and cons with how anything is used. We have mosquitoes that are being bred to fight malaria. So now we're releasing these mosquitoes into these areas to now almost be like a vaccination sort of service. Whether it's good or bad, is it the right purpose? The biology behind it, we've been kind of editing and toying with stem cells and the research behind that, and how can we alter DNA a little bit. They estimate that in 10 to 20 years you'll be able to pick and choose the defining characteristics of your next child. So do you want blue, brown, hazel eyes? Do you want, light, dark hair, curly, or this? And they will literally slice up baby DNA. I hate to say it like that, oversimplify, splice up some DNA, reintroduce, through technology means, put it together, and suddenly you have your own crafted baby. Like you could order it from Amazon in a sense.
Yeah.
Like,
at what
that
point
is just so wild.
At what point though is it like the universe gonna look down on that? Because like I'm sure universe is like, sure, encourage choice, but when you play God, it's like, is there crossing the lines?
There is, and I think that line gets redrawn as new use cases and studies and advancements come out. I know it was very taboo to even think about using stem cell research at all, and then we realized the benefit it could help for us regenerating our own body, allowing our body to either regrow. I think they saw someone regrow an organ outside of their body.
Ugh.
So that they could
Wow.
either donate it or use it themselves. We've seen tons of crazy advancements in stem cell therapy for helping to cure cancer, or even the detection methods, that were kind of used by, not to say 23andMe, I don't think they started it. They just kind of created their own Uber of DNA testing. And we kind of saw, unfortunately, where that went, where it was like, hey, check out your ancestry. And also we sold your data and now we know everything. And that's unfortunate.
Me. I'm on there.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm so sorry.
No, I was aware. I knew what I was doing too. I just really wanted to know, but I learned my Spanish ancestry and my native DNA, I guess. So that's cool.
Hey, que bueno. That's awesome.
Hell yeah. Let's see. In what ways has AI helped you personally in managing your business?
Yeah, so AI has been a huge time saver for me. AI kind of takes many different forms. There are ones that the language learning models like ChatGPT, where now you can get some ad copy or messaging crafted, or at least the foundation, get an idea behind it. I was able to help one of our clients. I was working with a dentist, and part of our SEO strategy and content creation was creating blogs. I don't know the first thing about dentistry and what kind of things happen, but through my research, I found enough to give ChatGPT some context and some guidelines to follow. And it crafted 6 almost perfect blogs with the right prompt, with the right input, 6 perfect blogs in about 25 minutes that I could then send to my clients. It used to be 4 to 5 hours each blog to really sit down and think about, what is a customer experiencing through the buyer journey? They're going to have questions about X, Y, or Z. How do we position the company in a positive light or seem like they're an authority or trusted leader? This AI is saving us time. We mentioned earlier with Descript, where now when you're recording a video, you can read looking away from the camera as if you're reading a script.
Oh yeah, and it changes
AI
your eyes.
will switch your eyes, and I thought it would be worse than it was. I tested it, and it's actually really, really good. It's difficult to distinguish from the average person to say who is or is not using it. Another feature is studio sound, where they're automatically adjusting the compression and volume and the fullness of the sound, and it really makes a terrible microphone sound like a high quality studio microphone. That's just a few use cases. We also mentioned some chatbots. Right now, there are automation and AI tools that, for example, B2B businesses, LinkedIn is very popular. There are automation and AI tools that will automate. So basically, we build your list of your ideal client profile. It's like, okay, these are people between this age or this industry who have X amount of employees or this amount of revenue. We build that list. Now AI can automatically connect send a friend request to you. It can send an original message. You can use AI to personalize the message. So for each message request that it sends out, it's going to read the user's profile and mention something like an award. So if you're ever like, wow, this person took a lot of time to craft this message and it's really personalized, and you think, wow, some person took the time to do this. Unfortunately, sometimes it's AI, and we won't know until we share and know about these tools and tell each other about it. But these things exist currently. I'm using that method for outreach and, to start conversations.
For sure. Because I've done this with extremely prominent people and got some really good feedback. And I'm talking about knowing their entire background and then tailoring it to exactly what I'm working on. And it's like your childhood growing up and your father's dedication to, and I'm like, I don't know that, but that's crazy that you do AI. Thank you for making it so personalized. I don't know, like this person's going to receive this and be like, wow, they must have done so much research on me. Yeah, the implications are deep. The perception of using that.
Yes, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for the use of this technology. Are we then suddenly going to shift away from personalization, where if people are privy to it or they know it?
Because you just made me think about that right now. Yeah, because you made me realize, I was like, all right, don't fluff me. Get to the point is what I'm going to, because I'm just going to assume that you're just trying to pander or for whatever reason now,
Exactly. Like, oh, you're buttering me up, you're pandering to me. And, at some point where it's like really personalized and you're building a relationship that on the surface, it seems really good. But at the end of the day, specific for the American market, I think it works better in Europe and other countries. They're more focused on building relationships first, having small chit chat conversations
That's
first.
why they don't like us, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm learning that finally. No, all of them have been really nice and wonderful, but it is nice to see how things are, taking place on an international stage. So when I'm working with like some international clients, I'm making it a point to, like, for us in America, we get down straight to business.
Yeah.
We're like, get to the point. What do you want?
Over there, you care about their families, right?
Yes. Like, how is the weather over there for you? And like, you kind of learn how different societies and communities, expect to interact with each other and what they expect from a personal or a business relationship. But those are all things that we can learn and grow from by interacting with each other. But it will be interesting to see how AI evolves, and community and technology. And in a couple of years, there may be these tools so talented that you were talking before how you can create like a personal avatar and have voice cloning using certain tools. Some are better than the others, but I think we're getting to a point where in a couple of years we will have 2016 or 17 deep fakes from Disney. Do you remember that being released?
Yeah.
So this was discussed where they could take an actor or actress, shoot one scene, and they could manipulate the perception of your emotions based on your eye contact, your facial movements. I'm like, wow, that deep fake existed in 2016 or 17. Look at where it is now and the advancements that are going on. We need to keep up and be aware of what's possible. We can either use it for good, to use efficiency, like we were talking about. It's just a time saver. We need to utilize the tools that exist, but also realize when we're crossing an ethical or moral line that we're not comfortable with, and say, this isn't the right use case for this AI or technology. It's not the right fit. But just be aware that it exists, so that way you can implement it as needed, or if you feel that it's time to start integrating.
Totally lost the question. It was before you said something. I totally lost it, but I had something on the top of my head.
That totally happens because I'll like jump between 3 or 4 different points. I finally remembered the question you originally answered. I'm like, oh, efficiency in AI. I'm like, let me get back to that topic.
No, now you just reminded me. I think it had to do with other countries. Oh, that's what it was. I just remembered. Okay, it was for my birthday. I was getting gifts, and everybody's looking at me weird, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm a little more Eastern world with the tradition of receiving gifts and opening them in private later. Very American to get a gift and just be like, thanks. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm like, right. Nah, I'd rather just have my own personal experience with it in private. Like, Japan, China, Korea. There's just all these other countries that are more traditional in that aspect of, let me appreciate, it's rude and inconsiderate to be so greedy. And
Right, absolutely. Happy belated birthday to you. I just had a
thanks.
birthday a few weeks ago as well. And similar situation where I was presented gifts and I was like, I'd like to open these in private. Like, well, I spent time and money to get these, so that's why we're here. Open up your presents. And I'm like, I don't want to make a show of it, but okay, I'm not going to make you mad. Oh,
Yeah,
wow. It's amazing. Like,
yeah,
I saw how important it was to them,
yeah,
that the
yeah.
thoughtfulness and the time they took. But just to realize that we all have different reactions and emotions that kind of play into what we're comfortable or uncomfortable with. So it's interesting and really cool to hear you say that. You're like, I want to appreciate this gift in private. That's what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, now it's a show. Here we go. Let's go.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to say no, right? You're not going to fight them, but you're like, all right, I guess we're turning this into a thing.
It's so true, man. But kind of learning those cultural differences and how people interact with each other, it's something that we can take note of and kind of take the positives that we enjoy and appreciate, but also for us to better communicate and interact with other people, other players of the stage, international people.
And think
Something
about
you kind
how
of learn over
weird that
time.
is, though, that Americans aren't used to the aspect of getting to know each other, that you might be like, hold up, what does this guy want from me? Asking me how the weather and my family are doing.
We're so defensive.
And it's like common politeness and everywhere else you go, but here it's like alternative motives. What does this guy want?
Right,
Yeah,
right. Like we're always looking for the angle. What do you
yeah.
want from me? And it's I think it's rightly so for people to have those emotions and feelings. Like, what is your angle? What do you want from me? Because we do kind of view it as
Transactional
it is
relationships.
someone,
Yeah.
there needs to be a benefit, or we see it that way. Like, what do you want from me? What are you going to get from this? And I'm like, am I giving my personal information out by talking about the weather in a certain area or mentioning where I am? And I think it's right. We have a right to be skeptical. Want to make sure we kind of balance that out. But we're just feeling people out. And I think that's kind of a result of our own culture here in America, is just, it's a little bit different because of the way we were raised and our influences and outside factors. We're only known what we're taught and what we experience. And if we only experience just American things, we don't see how other people live. I remember early on, like between the ages of 8 and 13, going to friends' houses and seeing how they treated the kids or interactions or how they prepared dinner. And I mean, when I was like 6 years old, my mind was blown that spaghetti could be anything other than angel hair pasta. I was like, this isn't pasta. This isn't spaghetti. And they're like, this is just the way. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So it helped me kind of self-reflect and be self-aware that just because my experience is different doesn't mean that they're weird or I'm weird. We just have different things. But I want to be open to those ideas. And I realized how closed off I was and, defensive I was about angel hair pasta. Like, no, dude, it's just food. It's a different shape of pasta. It's the same thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, open my minds a bit,
And it's funny because even my nephews are like 4 or 9. And when you try to tell them to do something, if it's like not me, for example, they just want to exercise the free will of saying no. Even if they do want to do it, though. Like, they would have the best time ever, but it's like, nah, you're telling me, nah, I don't want to do it. I'm going to do what I want. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Hey, good for them. They're standing their ground. Now, of course, like as people who are trying to influence them in a positive way,
Yeah.
don't disagree just because you're like trying to disagree just to prove a point or to be rebellious. Like, I get it, but also we can help each other a lot if we were to be open to those ideas or concepts. I have a nephew that's I think they're 7 and 9 now. One's going to be turning 10. So definitely kind of experience, similar situations where you just see their influences, how they're learning, how they're growing up, how much of an impact you as a person has on a young mind. So it's important for us to just be aware of that and understand, how we can better teach that next generation growing up to have that skill set to think objectively, think critically.
I mean, I'm learning so quick, I'll never be Mr. Beast.
And that's okay, right? Like, but like, back then people wanted to be like astronauts, firefighters, or their big thing was like becoming an athlete, a superstar, or I want to go to Hollywood. Now it's like, I want to be a TikTok influencer, Instagram,
Number one dream job for Americans.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
just want to be influencers.
Yeah, or Mr. Beast, I want to be a YouTuber or
Yep.
create content like this. And it is cool to see that there's more opportunity for the average person. Like this didn't exist a while ago. And to see that the rest of us as a community are supporting that, where instead of cable TV, we have like one or two streaming platforms, but also we want to see the other people that we love watching, Mr. Beast, or if you watch streamers like gamers, or you like educational or entertaining content on particular business topics or whatever you're into, that we're down for supporting these smaller, lesser known creators until they become bigger, and just hope that they kind of share, they don't lose sight of their roots, that they contain the same moral and ethical guidelines that they had when they first started out. That's what we want. We want our average Joe, we want to support each other, not these bigwig corporations, the politicians that are just kind of like pulling the strings. We're like, no, we want to do our thing over here.
Yeah, that would be like me becoming successful and then only interviewing like successful and well-known people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's just so crazy. And that's what's cool about the podcast platform and medium, is that one, we get to connect with other people. We get to share tips and tricks and learn a bunch from each other. But look at how we're trying to elevate each other, even without something in it for us, or maybe there's an exchange of value that we're like, this is okay. So for example, with the podcast, I host one as well, where I get to meet other business owners, entrepreneurs, experts in their field. I never would have met these really awesome people had that not been a platform. And our pitch to them is basically, we get to highlight you with video snippets and content to help get your name out there and just highlight who you are and what you do. But again, on the backside, there is a personal benefit. So if I become popular, Chris Troka, and they find Joe's podcast here, well, now they're going to learn more about Joe, and they're going to like, know, and trust him then, and vice versa. If I have, some a guest on the podcast and they become popular, this is just another platform or opportunity for us to kind of share.
It is weird
our
how that
collective
happens.
community.
It just kind of spreads like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool to see like people following in the same podcast network. Like if you have one guest, you'll start to find you'll have mutual connections. They're like, oh, these were all the same podcast guests, but like they're all cool
or
people.
that the guests know each other, right?
Yeah,
That's
they're
even
like, oh,
weirder.
I just saw weirder. Yeah, it's like, wow, this is the world is smaller than I imagined, but also the list of people who are in business but interested in interviewing about it or talking about it publicly is much smaller. So it's just a cool experience to be a part of. I'm thankful for the podcast hosts like yourself who are willing to have us come on the show. There's content that's created for us to get the message out, and then in turn we're able to support each other. I learned more about what you do, and I'm like, oh, I know a referral for you, someone who really needs help in this area. I think there might be a paid service available. Help each other out. Good fit or not, it's up to you. But at least we have those options. At least we have those opportunities now available to us. And we don't realize how in alignment we all are on certain topics or subjects until we have those conversations, because we're consumed by the media. We're just like, oh, this is very divided. And I talk to someone personally, I'm like, that is not the case at all. I'm like, wow, okay, so we've been lied to. All right, great.
Man, that is true. From not just our history, but like education, everything all together. You were talking about that earlier, and I was like, is that specifically because of the Rockefeller education change when you were talking about Franklin and all the just misaccounts of accurate history? Is that the real reason, because of Rockefeller?
That wasn't even a thought in my mind. I didn't know that was interconnected, but I'm familiar with the name Rockefeller and some other situations pertaining to that, but I didn't realize that they were influential within the educational system. But honestly, it wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, they came in. If it's true about Tartaria and the mud flood being real, I'd imagine when they restarted civilization or whatever, that they're just like, all right, here's the books we're going to teach and the history. It's interesting though, because America really hasn't been around very long, and if you consider the history of the entire world and how much money we have consolidated in one country, that's where I get into real conspiracy stuff, where I'm like, you want to go into some black budget speaking about off-planet type civilizations, it's probably real here because we have all the money, right? And it's never been this much money in existence ever.
Right. Yeah, we have on average, we have a much higher standard and comfortable living because of the money and wealth that exists within our country. And it's interesting that even the poor, lower, and middle classes still struggle to get by, and we're still treated like pawns despite being one of the wealthiest and richest countries in the world. All this money is getting consolidated at the top. It's being funneled back into each other. We're just the worker bees, producing for them. They don't like they don't like the changing of the tide. When COVID happened, it allowed us to take a step back and realize a lot of things about ourselves or the world and politics in general, but also gave us a little extra confidence boost in the power of labor, the power of us and our time, that we now have more control. People were adamant about staying, like working from home or not going into an office. I'm wasting 1 to 2 hours each day commuting, getting ready to go to a spot to do the same thing that I can do right here. And we proved that that was possible. You saw headlines that were saying CEOs, it's more fun to be in the office, says CEO. And, all these really like things to shift your mind towards, oh, I would like to go into an office, pizza party once a month. Wow, that's really going to help me pay my bills. But it's something that we're kind of being woken up to, some of the things that are going on, and how deep it goes, how far back it goes. I think people are just recognizing that, things aren't exactly as they seem or as they're perpetrated or told to us, that we need to kind of take a step back and really just think for a moment. Typically, if you follow the money, you'll find some more answers and basically the motivation behind a lot of the issues of the problems that we have and exist today. But there is a possibility that this advanced technology existed before and throughout civilization. Even evidence of like batteries existing within ancient Egypt, where they had clay pots and they had a wire between them. And it's like, wow, these things actually existed. And if you go even deeper, mud flood with evidence of that, and giant trees, petrified trees, and just different things. I'm always open to like hearing what's going on, because it can help give us perspective to view the world in a different way, to say, okay, this either seems legit or it's not. But again, I think we should just be open to the idea of that new information changing our mindset, and just communicating and connecting with each other to share that information.
Have you ever seen those mounds? Like Italy has tons of giant mounds. China has giant mounds that they restrict and they grow trees and they cut people off from visiting. America has quite a few giant mounds also, but I think they're like in the mountains and stuff.
Really interesting. Wow. What were the mounds for? Or do you think they're hiding something that existed? Or
I say giant mounds because supposedly there's giants buried under them.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever seen photos of the actual skeletons or anything like that.
Oh,
people argue
giants?
all day. Yeah, people argue all day if they're real or not, but there's been so many different things, whether it's like a fossilized footprint or like there's tons of different types of evidence that say they existed. But I'm just curious if you believe, like, because if you think about it, the tallest one supposedly, from what I understand, was like 32 feet. And I'm like, dude, we're like running through lakes at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It does make sense. Kind of similar to like a goldfish in a fishbowl. So they can only grow as big as their environment allows them to. If you put a goldfish into a much larger tank, they will grow to a size that's appropriate for them to live within that space. And if we even think about maybe resources were more abundant, maybe the atmosphere, like the pressurization, maybe was different to allow our cells to grow and expand larger. Was there something different in our DNA? Did we have different ancestry to it? Was there
a good
more
metaphor,
oxygen?
by the way. That goldfish is a good metaphor for like people, like not getting out of their own hometown or like adventuring out, learning more.
Yes, absolutely. We are only kind of like stuck to our own environment, and we can only grow as big as the bowl will allow us. And if we're put into a larger bowl, we can have new experiences. We can grow and get larger, but we can only grow as large as the resources will allow us.
And that bowl is also your perspective, right? A lot of people just stay in their own one-sided view, never looking at the other side.
Yeah. Yes,
want a bigger
absolutely.
bowl, you got to put yourself in the other people's shoes, damn it.
Right, absolutely. And it's funny, I never used that fishbowl reference ever before. It came to the top of my head. I was like, oh, fish actually grow to the size of their environment. Like, oh, that's a great connection point. Like, you're helping my brain fire new synapses with this conversation here. And I love all the topics here. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely zoom out for a lot of things. Like I try to connect patterns across different areas there.
Hmm.
Can you discuss a time when it provided AI specifically provided a solution to an unusual business problem?
To an unusual business problem. Well, I think most of the time we're either problem aware or problem unaware. Most of the times we're problem unaware. We don't realize a problem exists until we see something impacted negatively and frequently enough to realize, okay, I have a problem. That's a problem or an issue that exists within educating people within the buyer's journey. B2B sales, most people are problem unaware. So you have to even let them know there's a problem that exists and then make them problem aware and then solution aware, which then kind of furthers their understanding of a problem that existed. Some of the problems that, you know, exist and pop up in businesses, typically we start off as only one person and our team can only grow so big. And once you get busy enough, you have scaling issues. So if you don't have processes in place, if these things aren't kind of like well thought out, you're going to run into these issues where a task is now going to take you, 2 to 4 times long to complete compared to before. So then you realize, okay, what tools or software, what AI can I start implementing to make this process easier? So one of the problems that we had, not AI related yet, but it will be, is we were getting too many leads on my DJ website. And I found that most of them weren't pre-qualified or interested in paying our rates. And I said, because we have a problem of too many leads and I'm following up with each of them and putting them into an email sequence, what can I do to pre-qualify them before they even get to me? So they can say like, I'm interested in your price, what you offer, and then we can just have a better conversation. So I was able to use like a quote building tool where then they can build their own quote. Once that got to a point where now we're scaling with more DJs, here's where AI comes into play, because that just started 4 years ago. We started introducing the knowledge base, the chatbot. So this was like a ask DJ Chris anything about your wedding. So it would take all the blog resources that I had created, any information from my website, and I took all the frequently asked questions that we get, and I created like a little wedding support assistant where now people can now not only are they pre-qualifying, but they can answer their own questions through this knowledge base that's a conversational AI, as opposed to like, you search a term and it will pre-fill some options with like, let's say you're searching like a
So
help
it's
doc.
actually talking back to you instead of just giving you like a selected option to pick, right?
Yes, and it provides multiple options too, even if you ask ChatGPT. So I'm not Googling things as often as I used to, like asking questions about
Same.
certain software. I will ask ChatGPT, I'll say, okay, so I'm working on a client website. I have WordPress plus Elementor. I'm using an Elementor page and I can't get this section of a block to show properly. Do you have any ideas? And it lists like 4 different solutions
Mhm.
and the exact steps that it would take. They're like, first, the easiest one, most common one is going to be this. Here's your process. It's very concise.
Wow.
It's very clear. And then it takes me to more advanced cases can involve this or that. And you could download a plugin like this or try this. I fixed the client's website like in half the time because I had the answer and the resource right there. So like AI is definitely
I got
changing and
another,
evolving
I
the
got
way
an
we learn.
example.
And yeah, it's just like, man, these are some great tools out there. It's definitely a situation where you say, I wish I had this way sooner. I wish I implemented this, before and way earlier. And I think businesses are going to, until they're problem aware or solution aware, they won't realize how beneficial AI can be for their business. They just don't know the problem exists yet. They are used to nurturing each lead manually with 7 emails over 3 weeks because they put reminders in their calendar and like, okay, I'm going to do this. Automate it. Have an AI do it for you. Literally anything that takes out, the requirement of human touch point, and that also comes into like becoming the bottleneck in a business. You as the CEO, the more touch points you require for approval, as opposed to empowering your team, that takes you away from progressing and advancing the company. Now, not everyone is going to have the same ideas or viewpoints, or they may see things differently, but that's a huge opportunity. I find that some of my team or my assistants have a different perspective. They bring different skill set to the table and are able to even improve an idea. Sure, it's not all perfect or the way I would have done it, but it opens my eyes to new processes and ideas. And I'm like, I really like that. That's amazing. Thank you for bringing that to the table. We're going to implement that. So it's a great way to take you out of the equation from becoming an obstacle, from becoming that roadblock or the bottleneck within your own business, and same for the team. So utilizing this AI is just it's a game changer. This is giving small businesses the resources of these big box companies.
Yep.
But hopefully they don't catch on. Like, shh, nobody tell them. Like, we got to move on this quick so
Trust
we can
me.
take full advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm afraid every day that it's going to disappear. Like I know a super productive day when I reached my cap limit on what I'm doing, you know? Like I'm like, all right, I'll go maximize this 30 minutes I can't use this GPT. So, but one of the funnier ways that I've used it, I remember I had a code reading error that I needed to like check the engine, and I didn't have the actual tool for the car. And I described the problem to GPT. Once I get the code reader later, it was the exact same thing that GPT had already predicted the car's problem was. And I'm like, wait, you're telling me my description was enough to diagnose? It's crazy potential. We're underrating AI still saving so much time.
Absolutely. I just saw an instance very similar where they were using an AI model to write car crash estimates. So instead of typically they would have an insurance adjuster and an estimator come out to your property. Now they make you go into the body shop just so that they have on-site estimators and people who can calculate that. They had tools, software. You can I need to replace this X amount of man hours pre-built in, but now they're using literally just photographs. The AI will scan the photographs, see what's out of place, what's broken, and write the estimate for you. Then the human goes in to check it out. Again, with any tool, there should be a human review always to it to determine the accuracy. We have to realize that humans themselves aren't always accurate either. But I just don't want, as we kind of saw, like the, self-checkout take over, where now not only do we have to pick up and try our own products or pick them out, now we got to check them out too. And like, do you want me to mop the floor on my way out too? Because I can help with that. Like if I'm working here now, just give me a name tag and say so. But we see like the way technology is, it gives us our own power, our own control. But it's also like the corporations are
being
expecting
used
us to
against
put in the
us.
legwork against us. Yeah, like they expect us now to have to put in the legwork
And
to scan
profit
our
from
own,
it, and they're going to profit at the same time.
Yeah, like and they're it's the same exact companies who will, in January, lay off 1,500 employees, and then 2 months later they announce a stock buyback in the tunes of millions.
Super
and I'm
annoying.
like,
Boeing.
wow, our parents had, access to pensions and employer-funded retirement plans. They had benefits. They had healthcare that was included that actually, didn't cost you an arm and a leg. You with a high school education could walk into a manufacturing plant, shake a few hands, and suddenly you have a living wage to support your wife and 2 kids.
A career.
You have a career, a long-term career. Now, people are always like, why are there's, insert whatever generation here are so lazy.
And
they
you can
don't
move
want to
up,
work.
by the way. You were able to move up also.
Yes, absolutely. The headline of this generation doesn't want to work anymore or are lazy has been popular since the 1920s.
Oh,
this is a repeated. This is why we need to learn history, why it's so important, because we see this lie being told over and over again. But somehow we feel like it's I guess I could agree. Yeah, that generation is, they're not working as hard, but those are the lies that were being told and the propaganda that's being pushed on us.
And it's ironic too, though, because of course, as jobs have gotten easier and labor is less needed, of course you're going to think that they don't want to work as hard because they don't need to. You know what I mean? We got robots walking around and they're like, these kids don't want to live. Shit. It's hilarious.
Right. It's whether, whatever reason you have behind not wanting to do things as the, status quo, like I'm not good at a 40-hour work week. I've done that, and I've been on call, and I've been with the grind where I would commute an hour each way to work, so 2 extra 2 hours a day. I didn't want to participate in that anymore. Not because I'm lazy. I'm a very hard worker. I produce a lot of results, and I provide a lot of value for businesses. But it was only until I let others stop controlling me or have that control where I could decide my own destiny. Within an entrepreneur mindset, I work 40-hour work weeks all the time, sometimes more, but it does not feel like work. I have passion and drive and purpose behind it. I help a lot of people. And some weeks I'll work 40 plus, sometimes I'll work 10 to 20 hours, but that's my ability. But I think it's people not wanting to fit into the typical status quo. People realize they don't have the same opportunities or results or rewards as the previous generations. And just as you said, the advancements in technology and software and things like that, we realize we don't have to work as hard. That's the whole idea. Were people not like mad at the factory worker, factory workers at Henry Ford when they were producing, like, y'all are just lazy, like using this apparatus to move a car more efficiently. Like, you're lazy. Like, what do you mean? It's just more efficient. But I think it's just us as people. We don't want to be with the status quo. We're not given the same rewards and opportunity. So we're trying to decide our own paths now.
My question is, let's pretend we're in a utopian world and we get what we want, right? Isn't AI supposed to make food cheaper, make resources cheaper, everything across the board, life, living standards, everything? Like, shouldn't everything become more affordable? Like, because here's what I had imagined, that if you're in a third world country, they still don't have access to GPT-4, right? And who's coming up with $20 a month to pay for this? But I did have the thought, but if you did give this to a bunch of people who had nothing, could they be making homes from dirt because now they have instructions? Like, they would literally be like, how do I make something from nothing? Done. Now you have people who like have no other option but to use the resources, which are nothing.
Yes.
It's another level of empowerment is what I'm trying to get at.
It is, absolutely. Knowledge is power. And I think, our own experiences can attest to that. It wasn't until I was introduced to tools, introduced to knowledge, that I could then utilize that knowledge, whether it's history or software, technology, bringing that all together to better our own lives and those around us. I'm trying to pay it forward as much as I can. All the people who have mentored me, shared knowledge, kind of gave me that boost or that confidence or that new idea to try something. I'm paying it forward as much as I can. Like, I tell everyone, like, oh, here's my tech stack. What are you doing? This should help you in your journey. What do you have questions on? I'm trying to pay it forward as much as I can. But yeah, we should be seeing things go down in price. The production increases, but we should see our wages rise with it. There's been a disconnect between the productivity and profits of corporations, these large corporations, versus what people are worth. And then also, back in the 90s when the free trade agreement, not specifically that one, but when we opened up the trade with China, where we could now move away our American manufacturing jobs to China, the corporations decided, well, we would like a heftier margin still. So they kept the same, they kept the prices the same. They didn't lower prices, but they could then manufacture it for cheaper and increase their own profits. Then they used those profits to squash their competition to purchase and buy them out. And we wonder now, where are all the good paying jobs? Well, they're in other countries. Sometimes that can be good or bad, but we see the evolution of greed and monetary and money first mindset. For everyday people, we're at the short end of the stick. We are on the receiving end of, just terrible wages, treatment,
and
laws.
Biden today, capital gains rate proposal 44.6%. What are your thoughts on that one?
Wow. So what was it before? Wasn't it like 20 something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So one thing you haven't mentioned is their secondary proposal within that law is the taxing of unrealized capital gains. I don't think people know what that is or what it means.
No way. Money you haven't even made, they're taxing.
No, and that's so interesting. So again, it's another situation where they present a real issue. A problem is that this consolidation of wealth, and then they'll present an idea that like actually just hurts regular people
worse.
more often.
Exacerbates
Yes.
it.
Yes, absolutely.
And
So
surprised they didn't call it the "Make Stuff Better for Everyone" bill. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. They do that all. They'll have this acronym or initialism that's like, oh wow, the Pet Act, and it's
Yeah.
like people eating
Yeah,
whatever. Like I don't
something
know, it's
dumb.
weird, but like yeah, like they will create some weird law that
Is the
again
opposite. The
it's
name is usually the opposite of what it's going to do.
yes,
Yeah.
Protection and Safety for Workers Act, and it's like, okay, we're gonna make child labor legal, and
Yeah. Oh, you just muted yourself. Hilarious. You just muted yourself.
oh no, I pressed the space bar.
Nah,
I
you said
forgot. I
you said
forgot where I
child
missed it.
labor. Get your punchline out. Get it to go again.
No, that's that's big labor coming down on me. They just took over controls. They're like, we don't like what he's saying. I'm messing,
They're like,
but
coming
yeah,
soon.
right. So we see like the passing of laws. A real problem exists, but the solution actually hurts regular people. So what they're doing here is capital gains. That is when you buy or sell a stock or a security, and there's a profit from it. That's a short-term capital gains. You have to hold a security or a stock for a year, which is at a different tax rate. This unrealized capital gains tax that they're trying to introduce, so crazy. You buy a stock, okay? Let's say you buy it at $10 and it goes to 20. You've kind of doubled your money. But you don't realize the profit until you sell it. You don't actually physically have that money. That stock could go up or down in between that time, changing your profits. A year goes by, tax season comes through. They now want 46% of the money of the profit that you have not even sold the stock yet. So you don't even have these profits to give to them, but they want to suck it out of you and take it away. Now, bigger issue is the credibility of the stock market, the security of the financial market as well. To me, it is just another manipulated area that's being controlled by larger people that even the leaders of some hedge funds have come out to say that they have active managers that control the price of securities and stocks to the level that they think it should be appropriate. So what you're telling me you're executing buy and sell orders there?
Yep.
It's
just moving it from
this
one
goes
wallet to the next. It's in a circular
yes
wallet motion. Yeah.
yes. And why, similar but not, related but not, but why is it that the bad countries that are out there, Iran, North Korea, and a few others, just to mention China, why are they the only ones who aren't participating in the world, the monetary policy? Is that the IMF?
Yeah, the currency
Why are
of they don't like the
yeah,
dollar. They hate it.
yes. Why is it that the only countries that we hate or are, harboring terrorists, why are they the only ones who aren't buying into this perpetual money debt machine that is created through the federal, not the Federal
Because
Reserve,
they
but
need
like the
some
world?
freedom.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. And literally it's like, wow, the writing is on the wall here. We could almost predict the future based on us making these connections and points. It's been,
It's a matter of
theorized.
time. Scary, but it's a matter of time now.
Absolutely. So I think that's, just stresses the importance for us as people and individuals to know our worth and to try to gain control back again before it's absolutely too late. Now, each decade, year, 5 years that go by, it seems harder and more difficult. But I still think that there's a chance for us to move away. I mean, we're not really consuming mass media in the same way we did. Our shopping habits aren't the same. We have a lot of people who only support local and they're willing to pay a bit more in order to do so. They'll make different, buying behaviors or purchasing habits based on that. So I'm hopeful, and people are communicating and having these conversations and realizing, wow, we are on the same page and we're able to educate each other and have a civil conversation and learn from each other.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about crypto, but I assume you're pretty positive on it, huh?
It's interesting. It's interesting. Behind it, so like the idea and principle is that we can move away from the traditional, either U.S. dollar or I can't remember what the central banks.
BRICS, the
This
new one?
policy. Well, just central banks in back when the original bankers, J.P. Morgan and a few like early 1900s went to Jekyll Island. and they created
the actual reserve, the Federal Reserve, right?
And then they created the Federal Reserve. But other past presidents have mentioned, like, it was something like, the only thing that's worse than, was it John Adams? The only thing worse than like another nation standing army is for anyone to control the money supply, and that is the Federal Reserve and the central banks. They are creating debt and money out of thin air. So when you put in $100,000 into the bank, they can then loan out $900,000 to other people.
The
That money didn't exist.
easing,
Quantitative
fractional
easing,
reserves.
yes, that's
Gotcha.
fractional reserve banking, which is how that's set up. Now, at the end of the day, I don't care what material or piece of paper or metal or what product we use to back a currency. It's just backed by our idea, our perception that, okay, this stores value and is worth something, so we can exchange it. I think that principle is pretty sound in theory, but over time, you see that Federal Reserve, we literally are paying money into a system. It's ever revolving debt. We literally can't catch up to pay off the debt. Like, it always has to be recreated. Then the exchange of like T-bonds and notes between, it's a messed up system. And now crypto, where does crypto play a role? Is this truly a grassroots organization that's meant to decentralize? Did it start that way? Did it turn out that way? We kind of saw that, was it Satoshi with Bitcoin? This was a mysterious, mythical figure that no one knew or heard about. Suddenly,
it's not
had
the government.
This idea.
It's not the government.
Is it? I don't know. It could be. I don't know.
Is that what you're getting at, though? We don't know. Yeah, we don't know who owns all of it. Could possibly be all in. Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting. But I just do see advancements in us treating new tools and new ideas differently and being open to those ideas, because it's not a part of the mainstream. It's not the status quo, and we're trying desperately to get away from that or find ways to work within the system. We're not doing illegal things here. We're just don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, I hate the game too, but I'm doing whatever I can to make it through, but also like have a positive impact along the way. And I think a lot of people are down for that until we figure out a way to have a more open community that isn't always like focused on greed or what money can I get from this. And it's just, interesting to see the propaganda that we've been given. But crypto is interesting. I think it serves a place. It can either, again, any tool, good or bad. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. We see that the Federal Reserve wanted to create their own central coin, and now it's only until competition comes in and threatens the status quo do they suddenly say, oh, we have the capabilities, we can make that happen. So whether it's the financial thing with crypto or not to boost up Robinhood because they suck, but whether they started with fee-free trading, so you could trade for free, but it was actually hidden within the cost. Then suddenly E-Trade, Schwab, suddenly they can do transaction-free trades. Wow, that's so interesting. Until another player comes in, do they have that capability? And I think we see that all throughout any industry. Anything that is threatening the status quo will be either bought up or they will do the same. Cigarettes and vaping. You look at, it was suddenly now cooler or better or non-mainstream to vape instead of cigarettes. And then suddenly the tobacco companies started buying out the vape companies as well. And it's like, man, all they're going to do is buy them out, increase their market share, and increase profits until other competitors can come in. It's any industry that exists. It's just how we play along. So it'll be interesting to see how crypto plays out in the years to come, how it's used, how it's accepted, and just how it's going to change and transform our society a bit.
My actual favorite coin is Bitcoin because it's just innovative.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that it's on the mobile phones and stuff, I think that's pretty cool as far as how far the tech can go, right? Like everybody around the world on one app using one currency is a pretty innovative approach to crypto.
Right, absolutely. And now I know there have been talks and concerns about a one world government, one world currency, pros and cons to all of that. standardization, whether we were all on the same system. America was supposed to have the metric system, but the standards, weights, and measures that were being shipped over on a boat, the boat sunk. So we just stuck with Fahrenheit and the feet and the miles that we have. So that's interesting. But yeah, we'll kind of see how crypto plays out as a one currency, or do exchange rates matter at all? Does the US, doubling their money supply overnight, does our inflation then get picked up by the other countries as well because we're on one currency? Or do we become poorer or richer, or how is that going to play out? Because it's like we're going to have to throw away some of the typical financial instruments or ideas or practices that we have in order to be accepting of a new idea to see how it plays out.
And it makes me question that if Bitcoin was an installed kind of coup from the very beginning, that would really imply how far ahead technology is to put out Bitcoin at that time, right? Even if it's not the best tech. But to foresee like, hey, currency later, let's have this backup because this dollar might not pan out. Like, you just don't know. Who knows? But it would be a pretty smart plan if you're just worried about the currency not having value later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that Bitcoin itself became securized or securitized, where then they considered it a security, which then it's treated differently as a financial instrument. And now people are, I say, politicians and corporations are like, yeah, ETFs exist. And then you have them saying it's a store of value and it's always going to go up. Well, they say that about like housing, and we see where that has gone to now. No one can afford it. Is that going to happen with Bitcoin and similar? Was Bitcoin truly a grassroots, or like you say, was it a coup, or was it controlled opposition? We say that all the time, where they will either plant ideas, informants, or people to start out an idea or have an influence over something. But really, they're just controlling both sides. So however much influence they had in the beginning, they're definitely making sure that they take over control. And is that so that we fight back and say, no, we want the Bitcoin? And then they're like, ha, got them. They love the Bitcoin now.
Either side, either or. No, we want the dollar, right? Yeah, either or.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah.
My question is,
it's just interesting.
I interviewed Roberto. He's on episode 5 of season 3, but he basically said that he thinks Bitcoin will always be a brand. It'll always stay around and it's not going anywhere. But my cousin used to argue, what's going to happen once there's no more transactions to be made on the Lightning Network? Then does Bitcoin become worthless? So what are your thoughts on that?
Right. It'll be interesting. Was that Roberto Capodieci?
Yes.
Funny guy, right? I love he's
I
great.
love how we've met him too. Awesome. Nice.
See that small podcast world.
Yeah, super insightful dude. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We just finished editing and creating the content for his episode. So at least some of his topics are fresh in my mind, because he was part of Blockchain Zoo. And it'll be interesting as far as Bitcoin, just as kind of like a household name, in the same way that a freezer box or a cooler became a refrigerator. That was a brand name. Have you heard of Hydrox?
No.
Hydrox was the original Oreo. They were the chocolate cookie with a cream-filled center. Oreo came in, copied their idea, branded it better, sold it better, and that became the household name.
Damn.
So, yeah. So we could see that with Bitcoin and similar other cryptos, where I'm almost looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum as being like the gold and silver. It has like an X amount of dollars that kind of trade in tandem with each other, which is very interesting to see. But there's a chance, Bitcoin can remain a household name. It'll be referred to almost any cryptocurrency. There will be slang, just like Google is now a verb. Just Google something, look it up on Google, it becomes a household name. Suddenly we'll have slang for Bitcoin, like, hey man, send me that bit. Where's that coin at? Like, who knows how it's going to be implemented. But yeah, what's going to happen as soon as the transactions are over? Once they are no longer, once those set dates of like they're burning through some of the transactions that help to like limit the supply, it'll be interesting. What happens at the end? Is there going to be a big drop off? Is going to go higher? Is it just based on, is it similar to the stock market where the price is slightly controlled, or is it really like buy and sell orders that are really changing and affecting the prices based on supply and demand?
That's a good
We
question.
don't, yeah.
Damn.
Good questions. I don't have a lot of answers. I have more questions than answers, but I feel like it's at least interesting and engaging enough for a topic so that people can just see it from a different perspective and say, wow, I never really thought of that, or that's interesting.
I'm
Because
surprised I've never asked GPT that question either.
right, and it would be
Yeah.
interesting. I
Yeah.
might do that soon, like give them really just the really philosophical, deep, hard-hitting
I
questions,
love it.
and see what
Yeah.
it comes up with, because it's either going to, with learning language models, they're only learned on the training data that they're given. Sometimes they hallucinate, so it can't always be factual. But there are other players who are creating their own LLM that is now either restricted, or it's either more restricted or it's more open. There were concerns that was it Bard, was it Microsoft Bard or Google,
Google Bard.
where you couldn't get an accurate representation of a historical figure because it always tried to be more inclusive
Yeah,
of
it was Google.
non-white, and
it was like, show us a Nazi, and it gave you tons of different ethnic background Nazis or something, right? Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, as much as I want to be all inclusive, be
Yeah.
more,
Your
correct.
feelings are prioritized.
Right. And it's like, wow, it's just not factually accurate, and like portrayed in a movie, like that's fine. Black Ariel, whatever, like, hey, that's cool. Like it's more of an artist interpretation and a different way to view it. Not everything has to be dominated by white people within Hollywood. And, it just wasn't that long ago that, African Americans or Black people were even given like a lead role on a show, where they were always given that, always like the token Black person. Like they always had a specific trait, specific character. Like they were never the successful, intelligent person that was the lead character, that was,
Yeah.
and it's like, as we
Even
advance
worse.
and
Even worse is women didn't always have the ability to just like write checks, open bank accounts, like little things like that are not that long ago. Yeah.
Yes, it's so crazy because, like, to us, it seems like a little thing, but that is so powerful for control. Is that they relied on having to get married into a traditional marriage in order to have access to those things or to be
Damn.
provided for. They couldn't provide for themselves. That's so crazy. And to see how amazing, intelligent, and successful women, have, and their effect and impact within work and society. Gosh, we should have been
360.
collaborating sooner. We should be more open to that idea. Like, why are we so against it?
Yeah. Y'all should have been CEOs a long time ago. I agree. I'm not opposed to a woman president. I just want the right one.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's same for me. It's like, I don't care what aisle they represent, who they are, the race, creed, whatever. I vote based on the person and their ideas and their individual actions. Like I will talk crap about a certain politician, but then when you bring up like they did something positive, and I'm like, I actually like that person for what they did for that moment, for that thing, and I will support that because I'm not like this crazy person who is like,
and
so tunnel vision.
I'm the same way too, because even with my own family members, I'm like, look, I'm sure they were good at one point. I'm sure they did great stuff for society, people, and I'm sure that they were passionate about it too. But at some point, you get approached, corporations, a lot of money on the line, and your values change. That's basically the gist. But it doesn't discredit that they probably were passionate and did do some good work at one point.
Yes, absolutely. I always try to throw these little brain teasers to mess with people. I'm finding better ways to craft, like a clever message to them. So I'll like, if someone's right leaning, I'll hear them talk, and their biggest concern are migrants. That's the talking point that they bring up all the time. Not everyone, but it seems to be a hot topic. And I'm like, you know what? Honestly, I'm like being self-aware, thinking, and I'm like, I would honestly trust an undocumented migrant more than any politician I've ever met. So that made me think. I'm like, hey, person, who would you trust more? And I'll take a Democratic politician versus a migrant. I'll say, who would you trust more, like as a neighbor, Nancy Pelosi or a migrant? And then it makes them think for a moment, and then I'll flip the script on it as well, and try to just make people think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I would trust.
It's not so binary,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a wide spectrum to these ideas and opinions. Something similar that you mentioned before is like praising the individual, their action. Like with Bernie Sanders, he speaks a lot of truth. Like he will say like college tuition is increased 400% and is now a percentage of your income. And like, Bernie, speak the truth, say it louder for people in the back. And then he's like, and these are the things we should do to correct it. And I'm like, I agree with maybe one or two. The other ones are just smoke and mirrors to me, honestly, if I'm being honest. And same for any other politician. So another one that I'll throw is, this one is great for speaking to the left, and I'll throw a curveball at them. I'll say, I think the 2020 election was rigged, and they'll be like, oh yeah, because Trump lost, and I'm like, no, because Bernie, because Bernie was pushed out in 2016, and I'm sure if he ran or if was in it in 2020, look at how Hillary suddenly became the front runner and nobody liked her. Look at how Biden became the front runner and nobody really liked him. They were polling in very last places. Bernie had the lead in many of these early areas. So that's kind of the little curveball I throw at them, is like, even though Bernie speaks a lot of truth, I don't necessarily believe in the solutions that he's offering or providing. And I'll kind of say that the same for any politician, as you mentioned with some of Biden's policies or Trump policies. It's like, yeah, some of these things,
perhaps.
Yeah, like they're almost pandering to their voter audience, and they just hope we don't notice or care enough. And unfortunately, it kind of works. As we mentioned, even though the war between call it a war, call it genocide, the issues between Palestine and Israel, even though to us they started in October of 2023, it's been half a century. It's been 50 plus years that this has been going on. People need to learn the history behind it to understand it more. But if you look at the crazy, people becoming self-aware, or people becoming aware of the issues, people are starting to protest, very similar to some of the BLM movement from 2020, and just the miscommunication that happens. It's like, hey, we can focus on Black people right now, but what about the whites? And it's like, okay, they matter too, but like, if you say everyone matters, then come walk with us, like come hang out and protest. And I'll throw people a curveball too, and I'm like, yeah, as soon as I heard about them BLM protests, I grabbed my gun and I went down to those protests and I made a shirt to protect them for their First Amendment right. And they're like, what? Blowing my mind right now. It's like, yeah, I just want people to think a little bit differently about situations and what's going on. For me, I was like, yeah, I supported the BLM protest for like, I don't want police like beating us up. We have a right to a jury. We have it literally written into our laws, and the Miranda rights is innocent until proven guilty. The opposite is done by the media. They make sure to slander you and paint you in a negative light to make sure that the public perceives you in a certain way. But within that line, once I learned about like the $1 million mansions that some of the top people in BLM were a part of, or the originators, I was like, well, that specifically I don't support, and that's not cool. We just need to take a look at certain situations and be objective about them. We don't need to get into this, black on black crime. Like, I'm sure they would probably use that same thing. It's literally repeated over and over. Like, what about Hamas crime, or like what about Palestinian versus Palestine? Oh, we shouldn't care about these people because they fight each other. Like, that exists all the time. Like, we just need to like shift our mindset a little bit and be more open and kind of mess with people on like the preconceived notions of what do I think about a certain area or subject.
One of the podcasts I did, I think this was yesterday or 2 days ago, Jack Kammer, but we talked about how BLM basically doesn't really focus on the actual issues that are the main issues within the community, but it's important to them. So you gotta let them do their thing, I guess. But yeah, from an objective zooming out point of view, if they really cared about like real systemic problems that are not just correctable, but if you wanted to see further long-term change, they would change their focus area of what's important to them. But I guess this is an example of when the catchphrase and slogan kind of sells itself and you just assume it means something else, huh?
Yes. Yes, that is absolutely true. Yeah, this catchphrase and slogan and idea and what people are protesting about, when that narrative gets controlled by the media, once they get their talking points together, it's very interesting to see like the first few days, 2 to 3 days of an original situation that happens. The media struggles really hard to come up with their main talking points and then to repeat that lie over and over. So originally, it's funny, when BLM protests were happening, I was seeing on the news buildings burning, cars like torched, and like people yelling, tear gas. I'm like, I gotta go see this. Like, this is crazy. I went to go like see that, and I see people like hanging around, some chanting, they're walking. Like, well, this is not quite as violent as I was told on the news. And then I went to another protest, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm kind of like, I'm down for this. Like, community coming together, talking about like, this is bull crap from, things that are happening to us. Like, wow. So the media controlled this narrative and gave me this perspective, this perception on what's happening. But when I went to experience it for myself, it was drastically different. I couldn't believe it. I just love the idea of protesting and, redressing your grievances towards the government. It's becoming more effective. Look at what protests and conversations that they'll allow, and which ones they'll shut down right away. What we're seeing with the
trans all day
violent protests that we'll see, like, at these colleges that are happening, and the justification, oh, it's a private college and this and that, and you can't disrupt this. That's the idea of a protest. You're supposed to disrupt a few things, but we could do it in a classy, logical way that makes sure that we're not perceived wrong, but they'll do it anyways. Again, the headline was violent protests, riots. And I literally, the only violence I see are from the police. They are literally throwing people out. Like, somebody show something, like a protester being angry, or they're like, it's anti-Semitic. And I'm like, what about this picture where like a group of Jewish people have come together saying they're against what Israel is? And I'm like, what is going on now? What are we seeing now? I think protests are effective. We need to make sure we as people communicate the ideas with each other, try to break down those barriers, just find common ground first so we can have those open conversations.
What's your vision for the future of AI enhancing human capabilities rather than like replacing them? Like, have you ever played Cyberpunk, for example?
No, but it seems super cool. I was unfortunately influenced by the early players. Like, this game sucks, and I'm like, well, this game ain't gonna be anything. So I totally wrote it off.
I played the crap out of it. I did everything you could do with the glitches, and I enjoyed it.
Dude, it looks so cool. I just love the concept. It almost seemed like a souped up, jacked up GTA in its own sense, but I know there were some early adopters or early investors who were disappointed in the direction, because they're originally told it was going to be this big open sourced sort of, do anything you want. And then it seemed like they were a bit more siloed and, put within columns. They couldn't do what they originally thought. It took on a different direction. But for those who enjoyed it and appreciated it, I loved it. But yeah, we could see something very similar to that. And I think it's playing out right now. Future of us as a society, progress, technology, software, AI, all said and done, things are good and bad. Things can be used for good, used for bad. We can use AI in a lot of ways that will help enhance our productivity, hopefully give us more time off. I saw someone make a really great meme or a joke about, we were told AI and automation would like take all the hard jobs so we wouldn't have to be doing these things. Instead, they're taking all the fun ones, like making art and writing poetry. And it's like, dang, you are so right. Like, these creative ones, like it's so true.
Music industry is not looking good right now either.
No, it's very interesting. I'm sure you saw, was it Drake? Was it Drake or Kanye?
Yeah, using the AI.
Okay.
Drake.
Okay, yeah, Drake. Yeah, took over the likeness of Snoop and Tupac. And that's only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AI music generation. I'm using a few tools out there. Have you played with any music creators yet with AI?
The Google Labs was pretty cool.
Okay, I haven't played that one. What is that like?
Basically, imagine you type in what you want it to do, like building trumpets, and it starts to do your trumpet build. You can type in, this is the key I want. It starts to do it. and you have an intensity meter that you're like, all right, more complex or simplify it. And each prompt you're adding an instrument. And what's cool is you can like, later they're bringing the download option, but you can live edit the intensity, and the transitions will smoothly go into like a more intricate pattern in the song live without changing or like without stopping it. It just fades into like the next portion of it's really complex. But
That's incredible.
It's mainly made for DJs, but I can see it being used for producing just very linear music.
Absolutely. That I'm going to try out that tool because I've been playing with other two music generation tools. One is Suno.ai.
Oh, that
Have you
one's
heard
cool.
of that one?
That one's
Yeah,
super
that one's
cool.
really cool. Just based off a single prompt, it will generate, a couple ideas on a song. It started with, version 2 was, a 30 to 45-second clip of a verse and a chorus. The new V3, the beta test that we went through, or the alpha, now it's 1 minute and 30 seconds or 2 minutes. It will create 2 verses and a chorus, and then almost like a bridge or a breakdown.
And the melodies are so good.
Like they're catchy, and the lyrics sound really like they generate their own lyrics. I asked it to make, can you make a punk rock song about Christmas? Okay, that was the prompt I gave. It came back with an incredible punk rock song from the 2000s. I was like, man, this is on point. The lyrics in the chorus were like, Santa's got a mohawk, Rudolph's got a lip ring. And then I'm like, what?
Sick.
It came up with this, created a song, and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm actually using this tool for enhancing some of the business relationships that I had, or I have. Any guests that I have on the podcast, if they appreciate music or I like them a lot, I'll offer to either write them a song or I'll just surprise them with one, because I'll kind of ask them, oh, what music do you like? Or I just know what prompts will create a nice like theme song for someone. So I'll make something about their brand or about them personally. And I do this in less than like 5 to 10 minutes.
Send it to them.
I upload the music, and they think that I'm writing like this complex melody and song, and it's just incredible. And they're like, wow, I love the lyrics, and the melody's so cool. And I don't know, personally, I don't know how AI is creating this. Is it using a source sample? Has it been predefined that they know which scales and which keys?
I think it's taking all the hits.
Yeah, and it's crafting these crazy melodies. And what's even crazier is that what's uploaded is not getting any copyright strikes right now. Nice. Any songs that I put up is just it's original, and that is incredible to even fathom. But yeah, the use cases, some are going to be like royalty-free background music for YouTubers. So whether you're doing like you need something more like elevator music, something slow and classy, or if you need like something more cinematic and epic, like there's a chase scene, or I want it to be more dramatic, you can have an AI songwriter create that, and now you have royalty-free music, which is pretty incredible.
Work
you have
for
to be
hire.
On a paid
a little scary. Work for hires are
absolutely. And with the video tools, with the music tools, with the learning language models, look at how many positions this could potentially replace, right? And it's unfortunate. Now, it is giving access to those who would not have the financial capabilities to get it anyways. So for me, I may not have, the resources to pay for a full-on video editor or to someone to compose a custom song for me. Thousands of dollars, usually. If you're lucky, maybe 300 to 500, maybe from a Fiverr. But look at that. Now it's opening access and resources to some of the smaller entrepreneurs where we would not have been able to afford it before, but can now. So it never essentially replaced the job. It just gave us access to something that we can now utilize, which is really interesting.
I'm working on a paper right now it's really complex. I don't even want to talk about it much, but I saw Sam Altman talking about wanting to know what tasks are going to be replaced, not specifically jobs or humans, but what 5, 10, 15-minute jobs are going to. So I'm working on a paper that's trying to go into detail, because I feel like if we know what's coming, it's a lot easier to prepare for it. I just hate that the corporations are the ones that get to know that information. So the more that we can make this kind of stuff available to the average consumer, the better chance we have of just surviving, I guess. It's horrible to say that. We're just trying to like survive the wave that's coming toward us right now.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because we're just trying to survive, and corporations are already thriving, looking to thrive even more,
Mm-hmm.
and they're willing to do whatever it takes in order to get there, which is really unfortunate. That money is such a sole driver of their initiatives. Now, if there was more competition, um, then we would see better outcomes here. But yeah, we definitely see AI kind of taking over certain tasks. We just want to know what's going to be happening and how to prepare for it.
I got one example. I was using
Hmm.
this meeting bot, this chat bot. I think it was called it was called something else, but it turned into Nada AI. And they basically
Okay.
it was airgram.io got bought up. And that's how I realized. I was like, dude, this company existed for 2 months, and somebody realized, hey, this is the future of note taking, where it's keeping track of who says what. It's like the Zoom with taking notes AI. So now we know who says what. It summarizes the meeting notes. It gives you the action plans of what to do next, who's doing what. And it was just in that moment where I was like, this shit's happening way too quick. Like one company to another one now. Now I got to get another subscription. I anticipate that speeding up and happening even more so, as you're saying. Corporations are buying up their competitions, and it's sad. Like you get used to a product and you're like real excited to discover it, and then you're like, wait, what happened?
Yes, yes, and
That's
then
my
it's gonna.
fear with GPT, right? It might empower too many
Mhm.
people that the government's like, all right, it's military only now. That would be the worst case scenario, because they're trying to do that with Dolly. They
Really,
pitched
wow,
Dolly to the government. Yeah, that's
wow.
scary. Um, Wrapping up though, what does it mean to be more than rich to you?
More than rich, more than rich. I feel like we can be rich in many ways, whether that's money, whether that's knowledge, whether that's relationships and friendships. To me, more than rich is kind of seen beyond. Once you get to that point of some financial security, sure, you can always make more money. There's always going to be the option and ability to get more of anything. But I think our drive, our purpose, as people and individuals and as a community, extends beyond just the financial gain or losses. More than rich, you want to have some passion or purpose. You want to have impact and provide value. So to me, um, that allows me as an entrepreneur to say no to certain projects or to say no to certain businesses if they may not have alignment in ideas or strategy. Um, and then I think that just kind of defines us as people and has a moral compass so that we know what projects we're willing to work on, what we're willing to do. Because with marketing, any tool, any knowledge can be used for good or bad. When used in a good sense, it can be a powerful communication tool that can help increase profits for the right individual or person. And the right people, are more likely to give back to local communities, to local charities, to keep that money within the local community. Again, we don't need another Jeff Bezos consolidating all this money from all of us. It's a sad situation to see. So I feel like us as people, to be more than rich is to have some passion and purpose, to have some drive, for life to have a bigger meaning than just the ones and zeros that are inside of your bank account. I don't think that determines your worth, and value as a person or an individual. I'm very fortunate enough to be financially secure, like well enough to not be absolutely broke. But it wasn't too long ago where I was definitely in that struggle, definitely going through that. So I never want to lose sight or lose touch with my roots, to understand the struggles of everyday people and that it's getting harder, and let that be kind of a beacon for me to do things morally and ethically within marketing, within business, so that I can provide better opportunities. I can do things in a better way. And I don't even know how I would treat, like, if a buyout opportunity came through. It's like, okay, is this going to entirely change the business, for the better or the worse? Is it going to provide more value? Or is it just me, collecting a check, selling out, and then I'm like, that's fine. I don't care about the people at the end. I feel like if we, like, for example, homeowners or business owners, if we ourselves recognize the value and importance of giving it to a deserving person, that would maybe help prevent the explosion in housing rates that we're seeing right now, that it's becoming unaffordable because people are happy to cash out and downsize or something. If we could take out the greed, that financial motivation, how much better as a community
Damn,
we could be.
it's a good one. It's a good one right there. Damn. Any way to reach you? Any like promotional stuff, marketing, websites, and what you can help people with? Let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. So people can simply just Google me, Chris, Chris, last name is Troka, T like in Tom, Roka. Some of my businesses you can find online. It's focus-biz.com. So I help businesses, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, any industry. I'm just happy to support them, small mom and pop solopreneurs, with anything marketing, digital marketing, technology, tools, and software. Um, that is just where I find my passion, my purpose. I really love that area, and when it serves a greater purpose of helping, the average person, mom and pop build a better business, that's what I'm all about. So everything we do from AI integration, some software automation, technology integration, anything to make you more efficient as a business, to remove the friction from the buyer's journey, to include the customer experience. Because at the end of the day, as a marketer, just like a doctor, we are almost incentivized to not make you successful. You will keep going to the doctor. You will stop going to the doctor if you're healthy. You will stop, working with your marketer if they get you wildly successful. I'm the opposite. I'm like the holistic marketer, where I actually want to get you better, more profitable.
Send you on your way.
Creating and send you on your way, where I can give you the tools and resources, knowledge, and systems already packaged up for you, that you can create a sustainable business model based solely, literally, on like SEO and repeat referrals. If you focus on customer service, the client experience, the user experience, you can create a repeat referral based business where you don't have to call me anymore. It can be some light checkups, like once every 6 months, call me for a checkup. We'll run some tests on your blood and the business blood, and see how things are going, and then you're off on your way. Maybe have some more zinc and magnesium. Have a good one, sort of thing.
That's a good way to summarize. There's no catch, like there's no long-term hook. Nothing more than what you agree to. That's good.
Of course, yeah. We'd love to work with people long term, and if they want us to stick around, they're happy to pay us for our friendship and business advice. That's totally cool. But again, it's not about us creating more dependence. We want businesses to be independent.
Dope. Cool, Chris. Any last words?
Joe, I just think you're a wonderful person. I love that we vibed and connected on this level. Your viewpoints and insight. I love the questions that you asked. It really created just fun, enlightening, engaging conversation. So I appreciate that. And for anyone who is still listening 2 hours in, I didn't even know what the original recording time was, but this felt like a 30-minute, just amazing episode. Like we just went out to a bar and grabbed some drinks, and
For
now
real.
For 5 years deep, we're just like, man, what do you think about this? It's just incredible to have those engaging conversations. And I appreciate you as a host, being objective, being a critical thinker, and just highlighting the entrepreneurs and business owners who come on here.
Damn. Appreciate you. I'll let you know when this drops.
I appreciate you, man.
Be out soon. Thanks, Chris.
I love it, man. Thank you.